not a nerd.
Nerds.
Nerds.
Nerds!
I'm not kissing a nerd.
What is a nerd?
Nerd! Holy crap, are we nerdy?
So much worse.
He's a very good drug dealer. You don't want to kill your best drug dealer over a minor slight like stepping on him.
Stepping on your tail and you're
Well, it's also you owed him a lot of money. You kill him, he never gets the cash.
Yeah, you never get...
Job as a businessman first.
So he's just going to hang him on the wall for the rest of his life?
Yep. At that point, he thought he was never going to get the money back.
Yeah.
Welcome, Nerdables, to episode 105. This week, we are talking Zach Snyder and HBO trying to make Watchmen into a weekly series. Kevin Fiege says Marvel one-shots are returning. Star Wars series will continue with the first family of the verse. And Doctor Who fans are feeling the Sonic shades are just not up to par. Also, we'll be talking about Frank Miller releasing the first covers for Dark Knight. And, well, actually, it's Dark Knight 3, The Master Race. As well as, we'll hit on a couple other little things if we have time. So joining me, Chris, Ethan, Sebastian, Shauna. Why is Shauna laughing?
That mouth is moving way too fast for Jabba.
Oh. And if you saw our Facebook post, Jabba the Hutt did our mic test tonight. And I guess
it's got to be more pronounced.
Apparently Sebastian is trying to time Jabba's mouth movements with my voice.
Solo.
So anyways, guys, welcome to the show this week.
Thanks. How's it going?
Wow, crickets. Absolute crickets.
I'm still trying to figure out how to time it a little bit better.
Thanks.
It's got to be longer.
You gotta.
I think he's not going to close the mouth the whole way.
Yeah, it gotta like kind of muppet it, I guess. Like.
You also have to go slower if you're going to do Jabba.
Yeah, but he's talking like...
But if he's going to be mimicking me, I guess he has to talk as fast as my lips move.
I love how people are listening to us.
You remember the last time we played with toys on the show?
This is what Periscope's for.
That's what we should be doing with it.
Yeah, but they have to watch it. Well, they have to watch it within 24 hours because you still have...
Well, you can save it. With Periscope, you can save it and replay it.
Just stream on YouTube.
Yes. So,
nobody uses YouTube anymore. It's all Periscope now.
And there was another a little bit of information that came out today that was going around the internet that actually was confirmed today. And we'll just get it out of the way right now. Transformers will have 4 more movies over the next 10 years.
I believe it. That sounds about right. I think that was everybody's reaction.
So it's 2.5 movies or 2.5 years between movies.
Hey, that's at least $5 billion that Hasbro and Paramount have incoming. So I'm sure they're very happy.
They're gonna put the bro back in Hasbro.
Well, Gem comes out in 2 weeks.
Yeah, but that movie.
Yeah, and Gem's gonna close in 2 weeks too.
Hey, you know what? The original voice of Gem at Long Beach Comic Con
Still hates the movie.
No, said it's an amazing movie. It's got everything that
because she's paid to say that.
She was actually in the movie too.
Yeah.
Yeah, look
she's
what
really going to go out and just go, hey, you know what? The movie I was in, the movie I got paid money for, the movie that's based on a property that I'm connected
sucks.
to, the movie that's hopefully going to bring people back into realizing that there was a cartoon and they'll come to Comic-Con and they'll pay for my signature for stuff. That movie sucks balls. You really think she's going to say that?
She did say it has everything that
I can't wait.
fans
That's what I want to see.
Want.
I want to see the press junket where they're like, "Oh, what is it like working with Director X? That guy sucks. I hate that."
That actually did happen with
Fantastic Four.
Well, Fantastic Four, but
by that point,
it had failed. But it was it was for some awful Megan Fox movie, I think, and it was
which one?
Yeah, and it was the one with
Jennifer's Body.
I think so, where they were just like, "That's terrible. It's a terrible movie."
Terrible.
But terrible. It's like
according to Entertainment Weekly, it was supposed to be amazing because Diablo Cody was the greatest thing that Entertainment Weekly thought ever existed.
And not to mention when Ernie Hudson was asked about Ghostbusters and he said no comment, and then 2 weeks later deleted the tweet like, "I'm cameoing in the film." That's, $50,000 coming my way.
Dump truck of money up to my house.
I forgot to put this on the notes, but speaking of Ghostbusters, they're saying they want to do a Ghostbusters animated film.
Yes, and that's something Dan
Aykroyd. The hell is that?
Why do you have Homer yelling at you?
I don't know. He hasn't yelled at me.
How are you still playing Tapped Out?
I haven't played that game in a month and a half.
A month and a half? How have you played that game in the last 2 years?
How do you still have it on your iPad? That's what I want to know.
I don't know. I keep hoping. As a matter of fact, that was our friend Jonathan. He just invaded my Springfield. Speaking of, is
that what it's called now?
Yes. He doesn't invade my Springfield.
They've been talking about Ghostbusters animated movie since Ghostbusters the video game came out, and it's another wait and see. But they also still have the all male cast Ghostbusters movie in the works too. And right now it's
Sausage Busters.
Like everything. It's
Do you think it's going to be too much? Like Star Wars fans are afraid that there's going to be too much Star Wars.
Well, again, it's all pre-production. They've already sort of said no. The all-male Ghostbusters won't connect to the all-female Ghostbusters. And the animated series probably won't connect to either of those two. So
see, I heard that I heard that the reinventing of the franchise is with the female cast, and then the male cast is going to be the franchise off of them.
Entirely possible, but
I thought we covered this like 2 weeks
yeah,
ago.
We did.
But yeah,
I got an idea.
Yeah.
Why don't we stick to what we were actually going to talk about?
Yeah.
Okay, so Zach
Because
Snyder.
2 weeks ago we did the same thing.
We did
I
the
looked
same
down
thing.
at the rundown like, we didn't talk about any of this shit.
Yeah.
So Zach Snyder and HBO are in final talks, I think it is now, to make Watchmen into a weekly television series.
Well, I don't think it'll be better than his movie,
Wait
which
for it.
I didn't care for.
Wait for it. There seems to be a lot of that tonight.
Because it sucks.
Am I the only one that has hope for this Watchmen show?
Really?
You're the
Yes.
only one that has hope.
Did you see the movie?
I did. I didn't like. It could have been a lot better, but
Yeah,
I-
I think that's
Okay, I'm gonna play Chris here instead of Devil's Advocate. I'm gonna play you as Chris here.
Isn't that the
Oh,
same
no, that's
thing?
the same thing.
I guess that is the same thing.
Trust me.
Do we need Watchmen in any other medium other than in the book?
I don't know if we need it, but it'd just be kind of nice to have. And if they could pull it off, then I'd be
Yeah,
happy.
I tend to like.
I just realized you have your own headphones on tonight.
Yeah.
I
Like-
just realized that. Well, I didn't. I just realized earlier they match her sweatshirt.
Yes, they did.
I am, like,
Shauna is fashion forward,
I am.
making sure she's got.
So, okay, do you really? I mean,
I have a very I don't care for remakes as a general rule, but I tend to be a little more lenient when source material is something like a book.
mm-hmm.
Mostly because if it's a film, that final version is already on screen. It's already sort of been made because it started out as a movie and ended as a movie.
Right.
And that's kind of, it's like, when Kevin Smith talks about being asked to write Beetlejuice Goes Hawaiian in the 90s, like, wasn't all that needed to be said about Beetlejuice already said with the
Wasn't
first
there
movie?
an episode of the cartoon where he does go to Hawaii?
They do a joke about that, yeah. But,
thought they did.
but when it comes to a book, because books have such a wide berth for things to do, like, you could do, like, 10 Jurassic Park movies because of the source material alone, where, like, you can take completely different paths with different characters using different ideas, and that's just something as an
Yeah,
example.
you have interpretations of an original story, which
Right.
I enjoy. The problem
Right.
with Watchmen is it doesn't translate very well to film.
But also
because Snyder slavishly did. When they said we want to make it as close to the book as possible, I'm like, oh, that's such a mistake. Because they did the same thing with Sin City. People enjoyed Sin City, and visually it looked fantastic. But they also took the dialogue straight from the comic book.
Correct.
There's a reason why the dialogue shouldn't have been taken from the comic book.
Well, there's
it
a lot of
sounds
shots
terrible.
that went shot for shot.
Shot
It's
for
just-
shot is a different thing. The thing with Watchmen is Watchmen as a book is a character study.
Yes.
The plot is in the first 2 issues and the last 2 issues. Everything in between has nothing to do with what's going on.
Right.
And you try to put that into a film and you end up with, well, what are we going to do here? I got an idea. Since this is boring as crap, let's have these 2 characters beat the living crap out of an entire jail cell and then get her naked and have sex.
Yes.
And you're just like, okay, you're slavishly to the book, but then realize halfway through the film,
What's wrong with that?
we're bored out of our skulls.
Right.
But the thing is, if you're saying from the start, we want to do exactly what's in the book and we don't want to change it, and then you change it, you're admitting that the book can't really make a great film.
Well, even if you look at most of the adaptations of books to movies, there are
Comics to movies.
well, but even look at novels to movies. There is a translation from the book to the movie.
Yeah.
That's why a lot of people go, well, the book was so much better because the book can be better because it's more. There's so much more that you can dive into because you have more time. Now we're talking that we're doing basically a Game of Thrones type series of a graphic novel.
I think a TV show was the place to start before a film, because again, comic books in
Yeah,
general.
what are you adapting?
Yeah.
Are you taking?
Snyder's movie
Are
and
you
expanding?
taking? Yeah,
on
are
it?
you taking the original Alan Moore 12-issue series, or are you just saying we're going to make a TV show based in this universe? Are
That's
we going to
what-
show
doing
the
like the
comedians?
before Watchmen
Yeah,
stuff?
if you're
See,
doing,
that's what I was wondering.
That's the thing. It depends on what the subject matter is. If you're like, we're going to show the comedian's adventures before Watchmen, then yes, you could build a TV series about it. But how interesting is it going to be? the success and then very rapid failure of before Watchmen in terms of just creatively says maybe that's not all that interesting.
Right. The only one I think before Watchmen's the Minutemen was probably the best out of the bunch.
Minutemen was good. Silk Spectre wasn't
Silk
too bad.
Spectre wasn't
Wasn't
bad.
too bad.
Dr. Manhattan was fantastically visual.
Yes.
The comedian was
The
okay.
problem with the comedian is it doesn't fit with who the comedian is.
See, and that's what I was going to say, is what the comedian's backstory in the actual book is way more interesting than what the Before Watchmen gave him.
Well, because it's already like the Watchmen is not only because it is a character study, it's dependent on the time frame that it takes place in. Because you do need Tales from the Black Freighter, you do need the psych evaluations and
Right.
the newspaper clippings and parts of the part of the original Night Owl's biography, because all that builds a really really interesting snapshot of the world. And something like a comic book does lend itself to television in that you can do vignette stories, and you could make Watchmen a 24-episode show and cover all of that and probably
Yes.
have it be very interesting. But the Watchmen movie wasn't a very interesting film. I mean, I checked out 10 minutes in the moment, in a world where they're supposed to be regular human beings, and they have them smashing their heads through, marble countertops and throwing themselves through all. And immediately, somebody I was with watching movies like, I thought you said these people didn't have superpowers. And it's like, well, movie's done. I'm done. I'm out.
I do that all the time, though.
I wanted to like that movie so bad. I desperately wanted to because I loved when I first read the book, I was like, I want to see this made into a movie. And Chris was the first person who was like, why?
Yeah,
why would you want
what's wrong
it?
with it being one of the best? There are things that lend itself very easily. If you take something like Spider-Man, you say, well, I want a Spider-Man movie. Anyone who says, oh, that's going to ruin the comic is an idiot. There's 1,000 stories to tell with
And you
Spider-Man.
can make up your own stories.
Right, there's only one
brand new
Watchmen.
There's a Watchmen story that it's Alan Moore takes these characters that were just complete crap and goes, I can use these characters to tell this completely different story at the time, a deconstruction of the entire superhero genre, a character study of who these people were. The point of what Watchmen was at the time is a character like the comedian, you couldn't read that in Marvel DC.
Right.
That guy's a dick.
Yeah.
He's a murderer.
He's an
He's an
anti-hero.
asshole. No, he's not an anti. He's the villain.
He's a bad guy.
He's a terrible
Well,
human
look what he
being.
does when he goes into
He
Vietnam.
admitted-
and
he-
Exactly.
Right, but
that's
not
the
only
problem
that,
with
he
Before
admitted
Watchmen. Before Watchmen tries to change it to where he's not that bad.
Right.
It's like, I got to do this because I care about them. No, this is 2 issues into that. The comedian one of it, I'm like, nope.
Yeah.
There's nothing here.
He's also a character who self-admits to helping the government kill the superheroes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Doesn't it
he
intimate
alludes
before
to it.
Watchmen that he's actually the assassin for JFK?
Yes,
Is that or he turns it down or something like that?
The movie insinuated that the movie basically said he killed JFK.
That's what it was.
And then when they did the comedian miniseries, they took one joke from the book, like "Don't ask me where I was when JFK got
Right.
killed," because that's such a thing as the idea of JFK's killing is such a big deal, not only in real life but in this universe, and the idea that there's a conspiracy behind it. And taking that and going like, no, that's already a pretty horrible event. Let's make it that there is no conspiracy. He actually was just murdered by a crazy person. And you have the comedian making one of his nightly visits to his arch nemesis to basically cry it out.
Yeah.
I think that was probably the only thing in the comedian Before Watchmen that I actually liked. So, I mean, again, there were some interesting takes, but he's a really bad guy.
Well, yeah, I mean, and let's face it, we live in a world now where even the bad guys people find appealing.
That's people have always been bad. I mean, I don't know if I can buy that
If they're
because people
good, though. That's not, not good as in, what kind of person they are. I mean, if they're well
if you can
done,
make a connection with the
if
audience
they're
with
well
that.
done villains, yeah.
well done villains, but in real life, though, people have always had a fascination with killer. I mean, it's tragic what happened in Oregon,
Right.
But that's the 24-hour media cycle. Everyone wants to say, oh, but no, for as long as that's been going on, there's always been that fascination.
Well, what's amazing about this story is this is literally a week after Zach Snyder came out saying how Marvel's, putting out movies that are the flavors of the week, and that what he's putting out are not flavors of the week. They are the exception to the Steven Spielberg rule that, all superhero movies are on their way out. So here he is now putting out something.
It's really
To me, this is the absolute flavor of the week.
Yeah, Sucker Punch is exactly the flavor. 300 was the flavor of the week. I mean,
What is the flavor of the week? He's taking something that who the hell's been talking. No one's talked about Watchmen since before Watchmen was
right,
released.
Correct.
right.
So it's not even flavor of the week. It's
Flavor
he's
of
mining
the
something
second.
that it's not something that is out there right now that people are talking about. So I don't think it
Would you
goes
be more?
against what he was talking about before. It's just
people stopped talking about Man of Steel like a week after that movie came out. Everyone sort of got
that's
out.
everything.
Yeah,
We've been talking about that, how quickly stuff just
Yeah.
disappears. That
It
was the
does
Netflix
disappear.
argument for
Yeah.
a little while.
Would you be more interested in if the movie had not been made?
Yes, because the book is far more interesting than he made it out to be. He turned a really interesting book into a really boring movie. Mm-hmm. I mean,
The problem with Watchmen is it's boring because again, there's no plot.
Right.
his
Well, see,
yes, exactly. His version of
It
the movie has no
draws
plot.
on-
the great thing about doing it as a TV show, you can show the Black Freighter. The stuff with the original Owl, the Owlman, I don't know if it will translate well in a TV series as well as it does where you're reading excerpts from the book.
Well, again,
Right.
it depends on what you do. He's not going to adapt the movie as a TV series. He's already done his adaptation of it.
Right.
I mean, if he's really going to try and say, "I'm going to readapt the book as a TV series," you're an idiot.
So what do you think he'd do is before Watchmen?
Yeah,
I think
I think he's going to do the
before
characters
Watchmen.
before Watchmen. Do it. You can do it in any style you want with different flashbacks or whatever.
Now here's the other question: do you think he'll use the same actors as the
I
characters?
don't think he can.
It's
Yeah,
gonna-
most of them. I can't see Malin Ackerman going back and doing a TV series all of a sudden.
Well, with doing a TV series like for HBO or something, you're going to shoot it as you would as a movie.
Still,
Yeah, I
He
mean,
had
some
a
of them.
TV
I
show
think
for
some
a
of
while,
them.
a couple
Some of them,
years.
I think
That's
so, but most of them, I mean, it's HBO. Never say never. They've got a lot of money, but honestly, I don't think they will,
Do you think that?
or at least not all of them, to be specific.
Do you think that Watchmen fans and comic book movie / television fans will care enough about this project?
No, it's. I mean, yes and no.
nobody cared enough about before Watchmen to make it a success for more than a month.
Right. It's an. No is my first reaction, but yes and no. Yes, they'll watch anything, and I know that sounds really mean spirited.
No, it's true.
But it's true, but that goes for
Jonah Hex got made, so they'll watch anything.
But that goes, and that also that's not to single out fellow comic book fans. That's just about everybody. I mean, there's always that something. I mean, like opinions aside on things like Jurassic World or Star Trek Into Darkness. I mean, fans of the films went to go see them anyways.
That's what fan is short for fanatic. This
Yes,
is
exactly.
the sports analogy.
Yes.
The Cubs have lost for 40 years. They still sell out every
Hey,
game.
they got their World Series this year. Tell them.
See if they get past the Pirates first.
Hey, if they did, you know who called it first?
Yeah, Back to the Future.
Back to the Future.
Should we use that as a segue? Because Pepsi's coming out with Pepsi Perfect, and I'm
I
super
saw that.
stoked.
Yes, they
Oh my
are.
God.
What is it? Didn't Universal do a trailer for Jaws 15 or something
Jaws
like that?
at 19, they
Or
put the
19,
trailer
whatever
out
it was.
today.
That's it. Yeah. So out of all the things in Back to the Future 2, the one prediction they're going to get right is that the World Series is won by the Cubs.
Oh my god.
Would that be amazing? Well,
But yeah,
but the
trailer came
Coke
out for
bottle,
that,
the
yeah.
Pepsi bottles are going to look like the one.
from the movie.
Yeah.
Like
And-
$20 though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because they're I mean they're limited edition, but I don't know. I guess it's because they're making a special order. I think they said you had to order them specifically from like Pepsi's website when they came out.
So did you order them?
They haven't put up the link yet, but I told myself that I would get at least one, and even
Are
if
you
I-
going to drink it?
probably because I mean it's more for the bottle. I can refill it with Pepsi.
Because see, I remember when all the episode 1 cans came out with all the different characters. I knew people that were keeping them, and 2 years later, they were exploding in their closets.
Oh yeah, that's what happened
yeah.
to Duff, or not Duff. The
Buzz Cola.
Buzz Cola, yeah.
Right. I
Buzz
mean,
Cola
I figure
exploded.
I can even if I bought more than one, drink one. It saved, but I could also, just get, like a paint mixture and just refill it with, just a generic clear brown to make it look like there's
Like
liquid in
glue,
it.
yeah.
Because I would just want it for display. Because Nike, I mean, rumor has it that they're going to announce the power lacing Nikes for the general release. Because a couple of years ago they did their Michael J. Fox Foundation edition
Right.
shoes, and that'll be cool too.
Did you see that everybody was like, there was like on Facebook a bunch of people were like, okay, Pizza Hut and Little Caesars and Domino's, where's the
Yeah, the
dehydrated pizza?
pizza. And I mean, and this is also talking about franchise, like for guys who are like, no, we don't need to do remakes, but having so much fun with their anniversary and their fictional date, and actually being able to put product out without having to worry about another movie being in theaters.
Do you
I'm
think?
happy.
Because I thought about this today, with the fictional date being the 30th anniversary of the first movie. Do you think that there was some kind of that they had planned it out
You have to. It's marketing. Of course they did. I mean, how long in advance? Probably a year or two, but...
I guess when they were writing Back to the Future 2, they realized, okay, we should make him go...
1 and 2 are fairly far apart, aren't
Right.
they?
Well, yeah.
Because it took a while to get the sequel started, and they shot
right.
2 and 3 concurrently.
Right, because they did the ending of the
consecutively.
movie with no intention of doing a sequel.
Correct.
Yeah. And
Which is... You can tell because you go to the future. Something's got to be done about your kids, Marty. It's wrapped up in 5 minutes, and you're like, okay, what do we do from here? I'm just seeing that going, wait, he really had to come to the future because his kids are lame? This makes no sense. Oh, it's because they have to start this whole idea that Biff goes with them.
Or what was it, the Family Guy one? Where
I
he
don't
goes,
know.
Marty, your daughter, she's marrying a black man. Like,
I don't know
what's
about
wrong with
Doc.
that?
What's wrong with that, Doc?
Get out. He just like kicks him out of the door.
I don't know if I'm comfortable seeing you anymore, Doc.
So, speaking of expanding their universes,
And the video game is coming back. They're doing a remaster for PS4
Yeah, I
and
saw
Xbox.
that.
I want them to do... Wasn't there a... There was a... Was
Doesn't it
there...
have new graphics or something?
Yeah, they're doing
Or they
they're
do,
doing
like, an update
updated
or whatever?
graphics. for
There was a... wasn't there a Nintendo one?
yeah, a long time ago.
Yeah.
So it's fun. They're having a lot of fun with it, and more power to them. Because that, like, the idea that, like, I've always sort of advocated that, like, it's like, well, instead of remaking, why don't you re-release? Because companies like Disney has found huge money in re-releasing. I think when they re-released Beauty and the Beast a couple of years ago, they made a lot of money.
Well, every time they re-release it, they do that.
Yeah, and not on DVD, but in theaters. And
Well, like, for example...
Well, for so many years, they were like, people already have it, so they're not going to go.
Right.
And then when they re-release it, they realize you make it into
an experience.
event.
Yeah, because they're partnering with Universal's partnering with AMC to do 24-hour screenings of all 3 movies. They're concurrently. It's like they're going all out and they're having fun.
You know what?
Yeah, so the movie theater we went to in Vegas had they were just showing, or they had the poster for just 2, which sparked an interesting debate. When I said, yeah, out of the 3, 2's the worst one, and Mikey looked at me like, "Are you out of your mind?" Like, what? He's like, "It's not a bad movie." I didn't say it was bad. I just said you're going to put all 3 of them together. But then talking to someone at work today, they're like, everyone that he knows says the 2's the best. I'm like, who said it's the best?
It's a tough one because like as much as I love the original, number 3 is kind of my favorite because I like Old West stuff. But for number 2 as a movie, like once you get past that opening 20 minutes, that first act, the movie really picks up and becomes incredibly. There's stuff going concurrent.
That's
with
just it.
himself in the
When I was telling you, I
50s.
said it's still better than.
I think 2's my favorite, though.
Two to me is
Sitting here thinking about it.
because it's so long and it's so out of tone with the other 2. Like if you were to show someone 1, 3, and 2 in that order, they would wonder like, what the hell happened? Because the
I
tone
think
of
2
1 and
should
3
be
are
like
very-
that.
But that's the thing. It just for me again. I'm not saying it's a bad film. I'm not saying it's not an enjoyable film. I was just saying if you're going to take the 3 and you're going to ask me to rank them, I'm putting 2 at the bottom because it's massively depressing. It's completely different in tone. And it's not as funny. It just doesn't
Well,
have
but
the
it's not
same humor.
supposed to be.
It's a very.
That's the-
it's a
you're
lot.
big-
Yeah.
Look
You
at
know,
Empire
but
Strikes
hold on.
Back.
But Empire Strikes Back is still an action film. It's still a sci-fi film. You have a film. You have a comedy. Then you have
A very dark.
It's very, very dark.
drama comedy, and then you have a comedy again.
Yes.
That's
That's
it's out of tone.
that's how a book goes. You get to
No,
your
it doesn't.
Well, a lot of books do that. Where you get to the one point where your
So you
hero
have a
is
book that's
down.
really
where your hero is
Okay,
down.
No,
your
I'm
hero
not
can
talking
go
about,
up,
I'm not
then he goes
talking about
down.
a hero getting up and down. You're talking about something that's supposed to make you laugh, and then in the middle of it, tears your heart out and steps on it and says the world sucks and everything blows, and everybody you know is completely worthless. We take one of the most beautiful women in the world, Leah Thompson, and make her look terrible. And then you
that's
get
because
back
she
to
was
it being
Macbeth.
funny. That doesn't make any sense.
Coincidentally, in the Watchman timeline for Back to the Future, where Nixon is running for his 5th term as president, because it's the alternate 1985.
So I was playing the Lego Jurassic Park game, and there's one of the dig sites has the DeLorean that they're digging up in, like in Arizona
totally
or
thought
somewhere.
you said something else. And I was like,
Because they showed the out of time, like,
Yeah.
but I saw it and I was like, holy shit! They also have a bar in there.
Like,
That's,
why does Jurassic Park have dick sites? I don't understand that.
Like, what the hell are you looking at, Rich?
What kind of
God.
Jurassic Park
It's a
is
dick
this?
site.
Jurassic Pork, the game.
so, anyways,
Japan Indominus Rex is coming for you.
And Dominatrix Rex.
Indominate.
one of the other things that Jurassic Park that Back to the Future 2 almost got right were no more dust covers for books because books are almost gone. now that we have tablets.
Well, no.
Books are not almost gone.
Books are
We've
not
actually
almost
sold
gone.
more books last year than at any point in history.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah, book sales.
What about ebooks?
Ebooks are going up, but they're still not at the level of books. But they only got rid of dust jackets because they invented dust-resistant paper, Rich.
That's true.
You really need to watch Back to the
That's
Future.
true. It's been a while since I watched it.
But yes, no,
Get your
for
facts
people,
right.
the books thing is a complete.
Sebastian was right on there.
The books thing is a complete myth. Books are bookstores are disappearing, but because of Amazon, because Barnes and Noble still exists, because of other places where you can get books printed, there has not been more printed word books in existence than there was in the last year, in a single year.
Interesting fact. So, going to
More
Marvel.
you know.
Star goes across.
Now I just need my dust-resistant paper.
So, going on to Marvel. Kevin Feige, in an interview this week, was asked about
Dust jackets?
dust jackets. Wow. He was asked about the Marvel one-shots that appeared, on the DVDs and Blu-rays for Phase 1 and Phase 2, and if there were going to be more. And he confirmed this week, saying, yes, we are going to do more, that we have so many interesting characters and things that in the movies that there's no way with us doing 3 movies a year can we ever touch base on all of these other elements. I know, right? So because they've been talking about doing like a Howard the Duck one shot, or doing a.
They did a movie. That's it. That's all they need to do. That's
But
it.
no,
With
because
Leah Thompson. In it.
when you look at the one shots, the only reason we have a Agent Carter TV series is because her one shot was so popular.
I don't think that's the only reason.
That is the main reason.
Her
They
character.
came out and said that.
Her character was so
Oh,
popular.
but they
will
love
I-
that character.
Will I get my Mandarin one shot? Because I really want Ben Kingsley to come back again.
Did you? So you've heard that one then, right? Where, because the whole one shot of Ben Kingsley was that he's not the Mandarin,
Right.
and that the Mandarin was coming to attack him.
Yes. And that they surgically altered him to look like the Mandarin.
Correct. So that way Ben Kingsley could come back and play the Mandarin if they did an Iron Man 4.
Yes.
That's pretty interesting to do the double
They
twist.
did the one shot. I was like, oh man, people are pissed.
That's one.
That's also why
Holy
they did
crap, they
Yeah.
are pissed. The most interesting thing we put in this film, and they don't like it. Let's
They don't
just
like-
go
we
straight
gotta-
forward.
Hey, Kevin, we got to
That's
fix
the
this.
thing that worries me more than anything else. Is that attitude to me is the attitude that led to them letting go of Edgar Wright for Ant-Man.
Yes.
Like anything that's really different or interesting, we may not want to do it anymore because fans, if you get it, if you just change it a little and then you change it a lot, because really that's the most interesting thing that happens in Iron Man 3.
Yes.
Yes.
That is the
I'll
most
agree
interesting
with you
point
with
in
that.
Iron Man 3. And if you're not completely beholden to the Mandarin has to be the Mandarin, that has to be the Mandarin, it's great.
Yeah.
When you're like me, like going, I like the Mandarin.
This is a
I love
very
the Mandarin.
interesting twist on it.
Matt Fraction's whole story with the Mandarin at the end, the Tenors, fantastic.
Yeah.
But this is awesome. This I didn't see coming. I didn't see this coming at all. Everything else I knew by the numbers, rote for rote.
Well,
The whole
most
middle
of
where
them-
Robert Downey Jr. is like, I don't want to be in the suit for a little while. Can I just show my face for 5? Sure, we'll just get rid of the suit for the whole second
Then we'll
act.
jump you in and out of
And
every
then we're going to
suit.
have all the suits, and then we're going to do this. The most interesting thing is that, and that mentality now scares me for the future of Marvel as a film franchise, because the next thing that happens, Edgar, we need to change your whole. We're gonna change the movie enough because we really want it to be fairly straight and narrow. We got to walk that same path. We want it to be the
James,
same
we
tone.
got to change Guardians up.
We
some.
got to take everything's going to be in the same tone. Well, that's the thing is even Guardians as it is, it's not much different than any other Marvel film. It's the same in scope, the same in tone.
Oh,
Except,
speaking of which,
there isn't a point where Hulk dances to beat Loki.
speaking of which,
Yeah, there's that one time, you remember?
I just noticed because I was watching the digital copy of Avengers that when at the
What?
very end of it,
You watched something other than
Shut up.
Guardians?
at the very end of it, when Thor's walking through the new Avengers facility with Tony and Steve, and he mentions that 4 of the Infinity Gems have shown up, or stones have shown up now. How does he know that the one in Guardians showed up yet?
He saw the vision in the pool.
The vision that they deleted.
Yeah. If you
Well,
go back
even-
and you watch the deleted scenes, you see him see all 4 of them lined up with the glove.
Yeah.
So he knows about them, but they deleted the scene.
I'll have to look at it again tonight.
And there's also, because was it the director of Ant-Man was saying, like, they filmed the alternate opening, which part of it became sort of that fighting the communist stuff at the very beginning of the film. It's like, I hope that comes back as a one-shot, because he's like, oh, we've got enough material, and I want them to use it.
Yeah.
Of just him and the Wasp fighting commies,
So
Are
that
they actually going to show who the Wasp is?
they'd have to cast a Wasp.
Because I was going to say, didn't they?
Because they showed her in the movie.
Yeah, but you never see her face because they want to
face.
keep it like a secret. Because obviously Ant-Man 2 is going to be finding the Wasp. Well, not obviously.
So,
but
what do you guys think of the one-shots?
I think they're fine. I have nothing.
I loved them. I thought they were a great little touch. It was a nice little, almost like a comic book nod.
Was it the Avengers one that had the missing gun or whatever that was?
That was probably the worst one.
Yeah, it was terrible. I think wasn't that the first one?
No, that was the one that was in. Was it on Cap?
It was like
because it was after.
Yeah, I think that was the first one they put on the Avengers DVD.
Because it was supposed to be after the Battle of New York, and someone finds like the Chitauri gun.
Oh yeah. That was
the first one.
number
that
42.
Horrible.
like the two bank robbers or whatever.
Yeah.
Not
Because
very good.
and honestly,
then I saw
that's
the
how
Agent
Agents
Carter
of Shield came out of it.
Well, there you go.
The Agent Carter one was really good.
The Agent Carter one was good. I think we played the Mandarin here, but no one was
Yes.
paying attention to it, and
I like
everybody
the
was
Mandarin,
talking.
but
I like the Mandarin.
I have to watch that one.
But that's also because Ben Kingsley can act, and he just made just really funny. And
Well, they also got
the framing device is really good with him being interviewed, and then it's really
They got Sam Rockwell to come back, and
Right.
he recaptured his role from
and
Iron Man 2.
it ends up being one of the members of the Ten Rings, and I think
Yeah.
speaking of the one shots, I think that one shot also got done because they did a lot of work to set up the Ten Rings organization in the first two films that they just sort of ignored by doing again, albeit a very interesting twist with what they did at the end of the film. But I think that's also probably why they decided to come back to it because in the first movie, the people who capture him have one of the rings. The leader has one of the 10 rings. Obadiah Stane has one of the 10 rings. And they sort of mention it loosely that that part of stealing from Howard Stark was for the 10 rings to get the arc reactor technology.
Right.
So it's I guess it was a good way to sort of reshift focus back to that. Because I remember watching the movie, and as much as I liked what they did with that transition, I also went but they did so much setup. This makes no sense.
Yeah, 3. I thought 3 was a lot of just missed opportunities all over the place, and that was part of it. It was if you're going to tell us for 2 movies that the Mandarin's going to be the bad guy and it's going to be 10 rings, then let's do something with that. Instead, it just became extremist with.
But do you think?
But I also like the idea that he's using that would be if a domestic terrorist was using the trappings of ISIS.
Right.
To sort of do his own domestic thing, and then all of a sudden having ISIS come be hey, I heard you've been using our name, and
Yeah.
And
But do you think that the whole thing was going with the extremists instead of the Mandarin for Iron Man 3 was to set up Tony for the rest of the Marvel Universe with his, being able to have the suits immediately come onto him? And
No, I think that part of it was they didn't know how much more Robert Downey Jr. was going to do.
Right.
And we keep talking about if there's going to be an Iron Man 4.
and
It's not on the schedule.
right. With at least through
2019.
Yeah.
You got 4 more years. There's no way. You look at that and go, there's
We have
not
less than
going
4
to be.
years.
something's going to get bumped for an Iron Man 4 or a Cap 3. It's one of those movies they've got so much.
Cap 3 in a way you're getting.
In a way, yeah, but there's so much stuff that's being slated that.
Well, they're saying that
Stuff is gonna get dropped
they're saying
off.
that Captain America: Civil War will wrap up the Captain America trilogy.
Yeah, Captain America.
Captain America.
I think you suck.
Kevin
That's what
Feige.
that rock should have used. You're Captain America.
Captain Feige.
Captain Feige.
What Captain Feige? Kevin Feige also announced that that the TV shows will be starting to impact the movies sometime within the near future.
Well,
Instead of the movies just impacting the TV series, it's going to work both ways.
Which is interesting considering that they don't talk to each other anymore.
Right.
and
That's
knew it
I
was
saw
coming,
that statement
though.
and I looked at it and I was like, that doesn't make any sense to
Well,
what
you
they
did
just
have
said.
before Age of Ultron. You did have whatever Coulson was doing set up Maria Hill to.
yeah, that was bad. No, but that's
But no, this is completely incongruous with the fact that Kevin Feige has been fighting to not be a part.
Mm-hmm.
So Jeff Loeb still works for Bob Iger.
Yes.
But Kevin Feige doesn't. And one of the reasons they said
No,
is
Bob Iger
or
is-
whatever.
Yes.
whoever that he doesn't work for anymore, whatever
Correct.
story we covered like 3 weeks ago,
Correct.
doesn't fit with this because part of what they said is the TV series gets to go be their own TV series.
Right.
That
Also-
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but more importantly, all the Netflix stuff, not going to affect the movies, and the movies aren't really going to affect it, which is the way to do it. Because like we saw with S.H.I.E.L.D., I can't stress this enough. You wasted your entire first season of S.H.I.E.L.D. because of Cap 2.
Well, you saw. I mean, even in that article that Kevin Feige said that it's very hard with a movie or a TV series because if you're trying to do it based off the TV series when you're filming the movie, you're going already into season 3 or 4 by the time that movie comes out, and things have changed and started evolving
We
past.
talked about this the
Right.
first time. I said your schedules are never going to sync up. The idea of trying to sync up your schedules, you're already trying to figure out how to film a motion picture that is potentially going to cost you $300 million. If they're going to get a phone call and go, hey guys, can you wait for 3 weeks because Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. season,
We need Coulson to be
season
on
4,
set.
the season ender is on May 26th. So if you could move it back a few, no.
Yeah.
If I'm there, it's like, fuck you. There's no way. And the other way around, when the movie calls and says, hey, can you just waste 20 of your 22 episodes? Because we're going to blow up S.H.I.E.L.D. and it's going to be a secret.
Right.
Your entire show is based on something that we are completely getting rid of. So just do whatever, make it really boring, really bland, really stupid. Focus on a whole bunch of stuff that
Give us
doesn't
stuff we
make
don't
any
really
sense.
give a shit about.
And then all of a sudden, when it gets interesting, your season's over.
Right.
And nothing that you actually did, this is the greatest travesty of that first season. Nothing they did in the first season matters.
Until the very end.
But that's the thing. Nothing they set up.
Correct.
For 17
Right,
episodes,
right, right.
16 episodes. Nothing they're working
They
on
tried to
pays
tie it
off.
into Iron Man 3 with the extremists, but then that just dissolved because
Nothing in those 16 or so episodes pays off. At least in the second season, the whole idea of the Inhumans, the city, what Coulson is doing, all pays off in the end. Because it all comes together in, changing sky, and you find the city, and you blow up the rest of this, and you find the secret S.H.I.E.L.D. group, the other group that
Right.
Edward James Olmos is in charge of. It all pays off. And it's a decent season from start to finish. And you notice the difference with that season? It doesn't have to tie itself into a major film. When
Which
it
is why
does,
this is-
it's so incredibly ham-fisted in there with
Yes.
the stupid Coulson thing. Oh, God.
Oh well, and Joss Whedon wasn't involved in season 2, so
Yeah.
it also
Well, there you
helps.
But if you look at
Just
season,
leave-
even the
just
opening of
leave
season
them
3, the season premiere was last week. So much better than it had been in the first two seasons. Now, and this is something I was going to ask you guys, because we are dealing with the Inhumans.
So much better.
It was a lot
I
better.
watched a half hour of it.
Okay,
It's okay.
since the Inhumans are such a hard sell to comic book readers,
They're going to do a movie that will pay no attention to what S.H.I.E.L.D. has done at all.
That's gonna
Do you,
be
but do you
hilarious.
think it's a good thing for moviegoers / Marvel film goers to be introduced to
No.
the?
No.
You don't think so?
No, because moviegoers are not the same audience as comic book fans. Because a comic book fan can, buy Secret Wars and then okay, that's $3.99, $4.99. Yeah, I'll go pick up this other $2.99 tie-in and be done with it.
But a lot of people
TV
are.
and movie watchers don't have the same kind of time or patience to wait for a season to pay off for one reference that they then need to remember in a movie. There's a lot of people already out there who have trouble remembering what happened in the last Marvel movie to go, it's like, what are they talking about? Oh,
I forgot what I
right.
had for lunch today.
Right,
Yeah.
but that's why I'm asking, because this movie is in 2019. It's the last one on
It
their
hasn't worked.
current slate. Right now, looks like for the foreseeable future, S.H.I.E.L.D. is going to be building up the Inhumans to what us comic book readers know.
It will be immediately ignored by what they do in the film because TV shows don't have the same budget as movies. They don't have the same big name actors. And I guarantee you, when the Inhumans film comes out, everything Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. done will be completely ignored.
It'll be a completely different.
Because they won't-
here's the thing.
Yeah, they won't
It's
have the
same.
budget.
Well, they're not going to have Black Bolt and anybody else like that.
No, and that's why it
Which
won't
you
matter.
could have. Actually, you could have.
Well,
No,
no,
you
you're
can't.
going to do that
because
in the
you're
movies.
Because
You're
you're
not
going to
gonna
cast
do that
Black
in-
Bolt in the movie. You're never going to cast him on the TV show because he's going to want $30 million to be on your TV show.
But
Well, it
Black,
doesn't-
but see,
it's not-
with
it's
Black
not that.
Bolt, if
It's
you
not-
do
hold
him,
on.
if
It's
you
not
do him
just-
the way the book is,
It's not that. You're not going to use Black Bolt in the TV series because you have to save him for a movie. The Inhumans movie is going to be about the Inhumans royal family. If
Yes.
it ever comes out. I've said from the start, Once they added Spider-Man and they're looking at, well, we got to do 3-4 movies a year now, I won't be shocked when they say, you know what, we're not going to do an Inhumans movie. We're going to tell that story in S.H.I.E.L.D. If that's what they want to do, that's the better idea. If you're going to do this, whatever you want to tell in the TV series, tell it in the goddamn TV series and don't do it in the fucking movie and the other way around. There's no point in trying to tell your story that we're like, you're sitting in these big offices with the movies and going, well, we got a side story. Throw it down to the guys on TV. They'll just do the TV series. It doesn't make any sense.
Exactly. And the bigger issue is, again, regular audiences don't do what you hope they do. And people know that. I remember when Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. came out, and a whole bunch of just regular people that I know went, who's this guy? Who's Coulson? And it's like, they've seen all the other Marvel movies. It doesn't matter, because like Coulson was such an inconsequential part of those movies that they tried to sell the show on.
No, he was a consequential part of one movie
Of
that
one-
they then
yes.
screwed up.
One
and said,
movie.
oh, that's out of the way
Yes.
because God, we can't do this without somebody that people recognize.
Right. And then people in it's like,
Which again,
who's that
it's
guy?
the whole thing for Marvel's over-the-air TV for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., everything is so incredibly executively controlled.
Yes.
To me, it's just,
Well,
you
it's
look at it
ABC.
and it doesn't matter. It's Disney, it's Marvel, it's whoever looking at this and going, we're not going to put a TV series on the air in which we don't have a single character in there, a single face, a single actor that anybody has seen before or hasn't seen before. So we're going to take the most interesting thing that ever happened, the only good guy that's ever died, and we're going to bring him right back.
The most defining moment of the Avengers,
And
which
now
is
we're
to
going
get
to
them
bring
together.
him back,
Completely
and we're going to
erased.
make this bland, terrible TV series.
just like
Do you notice what happens in a Netflix series where they said, it's Netflix, who cares? We're just going to go find really good actors, and we're going to let the characters take care of themselves. That's not going to stay.
But Feige even said that the Netflix TV shows will be impacting the movies as well.
Yeah, he can say it as much as he wants. It's not going to
and
happen.
the only thing that will be impacting the movies, and I think he is he's already got an out for that, is that the Defenders are already going to be in one of the Avengers films, and that's as far as it will go.
Do you think that will actually happen?
Yes, no, they already said they're signed up to be in, I think, Infinity War Part 2 is when the Defenders would show up to help the regular Avengers. And that's the thing, is like, there we go, already impacted, done. Now the people writing the Netflix shows don't have to worry about writing anything else. All they need to do is get the Defenders series out, and then they'll show up in the movie. Because the truth is, the people who watch Infinity War will be like, oh my goodness, who are these other superheroes? And just be really excited that there are other superheroes out there.
What do you think about the idea that...
I mean, we've worked in comics. There's how many people it's like, I gotta buy a tie-in?
Oh, yeah.
Or have read a book and gone, what's this a reference to?
Yeah,
it's like,
if
oh,
you're going to have a Defenders team show, if you're going to have Daredevil, Iron Fist, Power Man,
and
Jessica Jones.
Jessica Jones show up and go, hey, we're going to stop Thanos, and then they all get obliterated in half a second, you go, who were those? Wait, what?
I guarantee you.
What were those people?
And here's the thing, is like,
And you've already seen the Netflix scheduling get bumped by the success of Daredevil.
Right.
They
Yes.
moved up the second season. They're going, oh no, we gotta do this a little bit faster.
Right. And,
Let's get this
well,
up
like
here.
they
and
said,
I'm
this-
almost positive the cameo they're going to have in Infinity War 2 is probably going to be in cuts of, like, Daredevil's going to swing from a building and save some people, and then cut to Power Man just, punching
No,
straight
it's
through
gonna
a bunch
be
of
Daredevil
guys.
walks up and says, oh fuck this,
I gotta
and
call
just
the-
walks away.
Think
I gotta
about
call
it.
the Avengers.
When you think about what Avengers
the gate.
Infinity...
Which honestly, it depends on how the movies shake out, but that could be it. You have the Defenders face whatever Thanos' minion that just wipes the floor with them, and you just see
Or not even. You're
you
gonna
just see Matt pick up the phone like, hey Steve,
go Avengers.
yeah, so
I love the fact that his eyes are closed because he's doing blind right now.
well, I gotta get in character because I sound just like what's his face, the guy who plays him. Can you yeah, you're gonna have to make up with Tony.
He looks like he's sleeping.
Then come beat his. Oh, I'm so fucking tired. And I gotta get up.
Matt
before
Murdock's asleep when he's talking to Tony
Murdock's
and
It's
Steve.
very dark in his universe.
Look, he gets beat up a lot, and with his hyper senses, he's probably pretty tired from being beaten up all the time.
Well, think
But
about
no, that's probably what it's going to be too, and that's how I see
You
it.
get a new
I gotta
fucking
fix
mic
this.
stand.
think about how many
Love of God.
how many heroes are going to be in.
Exactly. That's why you're gonna get like 2 seconds of Power Man punching a couple Chitauri.
Well, that was
You know,
what you had thought was going to happen. Well, I think both of us thought was going to happen in Age of Ultron. That we were going to see all these different characters. You were going to see Carol, and you were going to see Spider-Man, you were going to see
Well,
Daredevil,
you
whatever.
You
happened
get
with
glimpses of them
punching
fighting.
different robots or whatever.
You get
Throughout the world.
You get.
That's what we thought, and honestly, I was surprised by their restraint to not do that.
Yeah.
Right.
which
And
I
it was
applaud.
you got like Falcon for like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Or you know.
Well, no, he shows up at the party,
Right,
and then they're like, "Hey,
yeah.
But then you
we don't
have
need any brothers on this team.
you have
so
War
you,
Machine
you
show
and
up.
Rhodey
Right.
can just go."
But again, like Rhodey showing at the very end of that movie is like it's like, oh, he's there for
Well, yeah,
like
it's-
30 seconds.
Yeah,
Right.
it's
And
the
just
affirmative,
to show
it's
you
the
that he's
affirmative
helping
action Avengers. They only need one African American, so they got him, and then they looked at
It's the Star Wars thing.
and Falcon, and like, okay, you can go. We filled
You
your
can
role.
swoop in at the end.
And as much as we all would have liked, an hour's worth of like everybody fighting, it's like no, you have to tell a story. And
Right.
again, I'm gonna watch Infinity War. It's gonna be like Power Man punching, Jessica Jones like flying through the air, like crashing through a ship and having it explode.
Oh
and-
God, I hope she doesn't have superpowers though. I really
She does.
Well, they already,
No,
already
I know
already
she
showed
does, but
yeah, but it's you're gonna see Iron
flashbacks
Fist
are fine. I'm hoping she
using
doesn't
his
get
chi
like
powers. And
Well, haven't you seen the trailers for the show?
the actual trailer. No,
There's been a couple. She has powers.
smashes her
She
alarm
breaks
clock.
her alarm clock. She breaks like a shot glass by grabbing.
yeah, because I think they
Yeah.
want to get it in there early that she had it. Because in Alias, I think you don't even find out through like
Until
halfway the
yeah,
series.
yeah, that she has powers that she's just sort of holding up. Yeah, and it's okay, and that's fine because then people in the movies are just gonna go, oh hey, that's cool. And if somebody knows who Daredevil is, they're gonna go, oh neat, Daredevil,
yeah.
and that's fine. There's nothing
Daredevil.
wrong with that.
I know.
Let's just hold on. Let's just stop here for a second. Shauna, how you doing?
I'm okay.
Okay, just want to make sure you were still with us. All right, cool.
Are you still breathing?
I,
Are you alive?
Is your mic still on?
I think I'm breathing.
There we go.
Yeah.
Is your-
Come close.
is
Just
your
get real close to because your voice.
Do you have an opinion about the
you have an
Marvel
opinion?
one shots?
Do you have an opinion
That's
at
what we
all?
were talking about.
I know. Like no, I don't. The only one I've ever seen is the one you showed me, the one with the Mandarin.
Yeah.
Like, and if like they're all like are they all that good? I mean, I liked it. Are they all that good, or are they kind of?
No,
Well, the first
one's
couple were with Coulson.
They're all about the same quality, I think.
Well, how many are
roughly.
there's only three.
There's
Isn't
only
there?
like-
No,
there's
there's
like-
two with Coulson and still one. There's two with Coulson. There's on the way to Thor's hammer with Coulson and Stillwell. That's his name, right?
Sitwell.
And they battle. They get into a fight and a couple
What the hell
people.
was that?
That was in between. That was
I never saw that.
that was after Coulson leaves Tony Stark's apartment or Tony Stark's house in Iron Man 2. He goes to he's going to New Mexico. So on the way to
The
New
one
Mexico,
where they're in the cafe and they're talking back. and
Iron
forth.
Man 2 was before Thor.
yes,
Yeah.
because at the end
in the movie, it's the truck pulls
Iron
over the
Man-
mountain.
it's Iron Man.
Iron Man, Incredible Hulk, and Iron Man 2. But then again, Incredible Hulk, and Iron
Wasn't
Man
it
2 are
isn't-
simultaneous.
Yes.
Well,
When
no,
you go
I mean
back
in
and
term-
look
no,
at
no,
it.
no. I'm talking about release.
In release, it goes Iron Man, Incredible Hulk, Iron Man 2,
Wasn't it
Thor.
Cap?
But I think they were
Cap.
I think Iron Man. Well, because Cap was just before Avengers, but I think Iron Man 2 and Thor were the same summer or the same in that same year. Or
Yeah, because the end credits.
Cap was the last one before Avengers.
yeah,
Yeah, the end credits sequence was.
Coulson looking
Coulson,
over the
yeah.
hill, and he sees the crater.
No, I remember that.
Right, that was Iron Man 2.
That was an Iron Man 2.
So
That
in
was-
between,
yeah, that was
on his
setting up
way,
Thor.
on the way to Thor's hammer is what that one's called, which is Is that the same one where Coulson and Sitwell are sitting in the cafe?
Yes.
So then, what's the one with Coulson and Sitwell where they go into the convenience store and Coulson ends up kicking some serious ass?
I don't
Well,
remember,
I don't remember that one.
Because there were those two, and then there was item 42, which is the one where they find the gun after the Battle of New York, and then there was the Mandarin one. So and then there was also the Agent Carter. So there's been 5 of them.
Yeah,
And-
Thor and Cap are the same summer.
Yeah,
Huh.
I don't remember.
Iron Man, Hulk, Iron Man 2, Thor, Cap, and Marvel's The Avengers.
because
I
Thor
didn't
came
realize
out.
Iron Man 2 was that early.
Thor came out in May, and Captain
Thor
America
came out on
came
my
out
birthday.
in July,
Yep.
and then it was Avengers the following year.
Iron Man and Incredible Hulk were the same summer too in 2008.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was also 2 different studios. That was Marvel
Well, yeah,
Studios
it was-
and Universal.
Well, no, the distributors were different. It was Paramount and Universal.
Correct. Oh yeah, it was
Marvel
Paramount.
was produced all of them.
Yeah, Marvel. Yeah, and I think in Incredible Hulk, the after credits was Tony showing up
Tony shows up to General
to
Ross.
mock General Ross.
There's also they show Cap's shield in a scene where they show the Arctic there's like a tidal wave, with snow and everything, and you see
That's
Cap's
from
shield.
the deleted scene in the Hulk.
That's
That
from
never
the deleted
ended
scene,
because they deleted it because Cap's shield is in Tony Stark's house.
Correct. Yeah. Which is not the actual
film ended
shield.
with post-credit
That's the
sequence.
one that he's now using.
Film ended with post-credit scene featuring Samuel Jackson as Nick Fury. Farmer said he included the scene as a little tip of the hat for fans, a way to sort of Team Avengers. Jackson's only set for a day of skeletal crew of Avengers cameo. Captain America's shield was also visible in the background of a scene initially been inserted by an ILM artist as a joke, but Favreau decided to leave it in the film.
Yeah,
and then they end up using it.
It's on his workbench.
Right, and then they end up using it in Iron Man 2 because that's what he uses to level the laser lens when he's building the new arc reactor.
If you ever wanted to know that if Samuel L. Jackson uses the word motherfucker in Avengers, just watch the deleted scenes. It's fun.
Oh, you know what the funny thing is? In both the Avengers
I know it was
video
way
game,
off topic,
the Avengers Lego video game, they start to say it, and then also in the Jurassic World video game, they start to say it.
Well, it's funny. Like there's the gag reel, and so like they're walking on the ship, and he's directing Scarlett Johansson to go talk to Hulk on the video screen, and I guess one of them flubs the line, and she's like, "What am I supposed to do over here?" He's like, "I don't know. Use the motherfucking machine and talk to motherfucking Hulk," or something like that. I was like, "That's great." Sorry, I know.
No,
but
Ethan, you don't say much, but when you do, it's classic. So, anyways, Star Wars, and I just blew the shit out of the mics. Star Wars, they have announced that the series films, which are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, I think, are always going to be centralized around the Skywalker family.
Yes. That was not. I mean, it's news, quote unquote, because that's how they're marketing it to everybody. But
are you surprised?
No, that was already the assumption.
I think everybody had that assumption.
The moment they said Luke Skywalker would be making a big, would be in the movie when Mark Hamill was cast. Everyone's like, okay, they're continuing the legacy. And
Mark Hamill's not in Episode 7 very much, but he plays a major role. Yeah,
he's cameoing in Episode 7, but Episode 8 is his larger role.
Yes.
And it's I assumed that. It's like, well, very clearly all the movies are about the Skywalker, so who's the Skywalker in Episode 7?
Well, it does really seem to go with what Chris is...
Or it's about finding Luke.
Finding Finn.
Sounds like a 90s movie.
Sounds like the sequel to Finding Nemo, Finding Finn. So, Chris,
that's what the turtle's name was. I know we were talking about it like a couple weeks ago.
What turtle?
The turtle from
wasn't Finn?
Wasn't it?
Crush.
Crush is the turtle. When were we talking about Finding Nemo?
One of them's Finn, and one of them's Finn in that movie.
No,
he's got a bum.
They have a fin.
He's got a bum fin. That's it.
Chris, does this play into what you were thinking with Legacy for the whole?
Yeah, if you're going to put a number at back of it, it's going to be about Skywalker.
Yeah.
The end. That's why you do the anthology films, because we want to do a lot more films, but we're kind of sick of talking about Luke Skywalkers. So
right.
Skywalker's a jerk.
Luke, you are boring.
Do you think that there is actually going to be another Skywalker in this film? Why are we talking this?
I think it'll just be about the whole the end point of the movie is going to be everybody converging.
Well, also remember, it doesn't have to be. You can have a connection to Skywalker without being Luke's child
through Leia.
Yeah.
Right, and for me, the big thing since Luke is going to be a big part of Episode 8, I get the feeling all the stories will converge on we gotta find Luke.
So does that give us confirmation that Luke doesn't die in Episode 7? So he's
not. Whoever said he was gonna die?
Han dies in Episode 7.
He's not gonna be. He's not gonna do the.
I don't.
And then Luke commits suicide in Episode 8 because he lost Han.
There is rumor that Han and Chewie both die.
Believe half of what you see and none of what you hear. That's
Han's dying in Episode 7. I'm telling you.
That's my rule.
You called that. That's the funny thing.
They said that a year and a half ago.
Yeah, as soon as they said they were doing Episode 7, Chris goes, "Watch. Before Episode 7 comes out, we will find out Han Solo dies." And that was the very first thing he said.
Maybe the week before the movie releases, you're going to have somebody spoil it, and they're going to tell you, guess what? Han Solo's not going to make it.
There is a new trailer coming out for Star Wars next week, or it's the 18th, isn't it?
It's J.J. Abrams sitting in a chair, and he's like, Han dies.
Don't cry, Shauna. It's okay. He's a fictional character.
Would you want to
He's still
start
my
to see?
husband.
But see, I know that we've talked
Well,
about it. It's going
communication
to
must suck between the two of you.
Yeah.
Because you're not very talkative, and then
be between her and Han Solo, or her and Harrison Ford.
Han Solo.
Shauna.
But when did he actually start doing that? Because going back and watching some of his old films, like even the first,
He doesn't do it in movies as much as
He does it
he does it when he does interviews.
He's got like social. I think he's said he has.
He's also
social
145 years
a
old.
lot of actors.
You gotta
do it.
remember,
Johnny Depp
Harrison-
is a horrible interview.
Yeah.
Harrison? I don't know who Harrison Ford is. His brother.
That's his
Harrison
Eastern
Ford.
European
Harrison
brother.
Ford was not exactly a really young man when he did Star Wars
That's
either.
the child between Harrison Ford and Jessica
So
J.
Harrison
Jessica
Ford is
Parker.
older than almost everybody else that was doing that film at the time.
He was 30 when they were doing it. Yeah.
Yeah. But what was Mark Hamill? 18? 19?
Yeah. They were their ages of their character. That's when they
Yeah.
made up the characters'
So
ages.
this is, you got to remember that Harrison Ford's a lot older, so he just
He was almost twice Leia's age.
got to the point where How did Indiana Jones fly? Anybody got a plane I can fly?
And this has been a moment with Harrison Ford.
Harrison Ford.
Harrison Ford.
Harrison Ford.
Harrison Ford's Eastern European brother.
Harrison Ford. I fly plane now. Yes. Hello, I'm Harrison Ford. I fly plane. Hello.
Okay, so
My brother Harrison. He no fly good.
You got golf course. I land on
Golf course. That's what the. Now we know why Chewie always fly Millennium Falcon. That's why. He no fly.
sticking with
No
science
golf
fiction.
course in space.
No golf course in space. I swear to God, if that's in the movie, they're Chewie, let's put her down. I know there's a golf course down there. That's what I'm going for. Jakku's just one gigantic desert golf course.
That's how Han.
They do the panning
You just
shot
see
and
the
then the golf
Millennium
ball.
Falcon just fall right there. I just seem to be attracted to these things. I don't know how this works.
Oh shit! You made a
Do you
divot.
think fans would actually stand up and clap if there was a golf course that he crashes into?
No, they'd nerd rage out.
When did this become Spaceballs?
That's in Spaceballs too.
They play bocce ball in Star Wars.
Exactly. Stick ball.
Hey, you guys want to play stickball?
So
I prefer hoop with a stick. Pushing the old hoop on the stick down the street.
I know you have, Sebastian. I know you have strong feelings about Stephen Moffat and
Yes.
Doctor Who.
He loves it.
Because he doesn't have a goatee.
I think that the majority of fans have finally jumped on board with you.
Okay. Good.
Have
Good
you
for them.
watched the last couple
I could
episodes?
have told you that the moment that they said that Plastic Face was dying. As soon as they said he's gone, trust me, everybody just checked out.
It's gone worse than that.
Which is amazing.
Well, I don't like that's like for me. It's one of those.
Well,
things,
not
like,
you. I know you didn't check out for that. You were.
Yeah.
I even was like, yeah, Peter Capaldi's kind of interesting. I thought
I-
that
and
was a
I
great
like-
choice.
I love
like him.
Peter Capaldi. I love it. I even like him as a doctor.
It's because you're not a 15-year-old girl.
That's true.
And that's
is.
where everybody was.
Yeah. For
Only
me,
certain
it's not
times
even a
in the
matter
day.
of like. Part of me is like it's like yeah, he's not very good anymore. And for me, like season 6 was for me like that sort of the big like. This season's like started out really strong, and then as it went on, like I think I know what you're gonna do, and then you did it. It's like it didn't really work out and sound as cool as you think this sounds.
Season 6. That was the
As the
astronaut.
yes, impossible astronaut.
Yes.
And it's also one of those things
Let's
like
kill Hitler. And all
yeah,
that.
and knowing like Stephen Moffat and going back and being able to see like his old like forum logs, like, and he goes like, "Well, you blew all of your Doctor Who dreams in one season, and then you didn't even execute well beyond that." Like, oh boy,
Yeah.
this isn't very good. And it's like, well, okay, I don't feel like I'm ahead of the curve. I just feel like it's just
Have you
him
watched this
getting
season?
progressively worse.
Have you watched this season?
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Are you caught up?
I need to see the current episode from Saturday.
Okay, so but
There is no more relevant statement in the history of the world.
I'm trying to.
I'm trying to. You watching this season? I'm trying to.
So you already saw the replacement for the sonic
Yeah,
screwdriver.
the sunglasses, and like I'm not like it's one of those things like I'm neither here nor there on them. It's like yeah, it's kind of like like I know it's kind of dumb.
Because there's a petition right now.
Yes, I know to get it taken away, and like for me, I think his reaction to the petition says a lot about him, but it's also very accurate. It's like, his response was basically like, why would the Doctor be attached to a sonic screwdriver if there's better technology? Which I agree with from a story.
Okay, so I want to play.
Which I agree with on a storytelling standpoint. But I also was like, it's like, oh, good, you're aware that the Doctor constantly changes and always wants, the latest and greatest. Because that's what he does, because he's a little bit of the old and the new. But then you did it so poorly that I go like, well, and what's the point, man? If you can't execute, then don't try.
So for everybody else that hasn't heard what Stephen Moffat said about it, if you don't know, he's replaced the sonic screwdriver, which is one of the staples of what Doctor Who is now.
It's iconic.
Totally dumb. It's such a terrible thing because it's all Deus Ex Machina.
Yes.
Which now he's replaced them with an actual pair of the
whatever it
Ray-Ban
is.
shades.
The 1 or 2 episodes I watched, it's just amazing where you just have like, what's going to happen? The door's closed. Zzz. Hey, the door's open again.
That's exactly what it is. It's
Yeah,
Deus Ex
and
Machina.
it's like, God.
And they made no bones about hiding what that essentially
Except for
was.
if it's wood.
Right. But I mean,
it's the 60s Batman TV series with the belt.
Right.
No matter what Batman ran into, Robin, there's a bomb over here. Let me get my anti-bomb thing out of
My
my
bat bomb
suit. There we go.
repellent.
Oh, Robin, I have something that I need to warm up. So here's my bat hand warmers or whatever. And that's what it was. It was basically
I just
one
say to the
Roman.
Simpsons, like,
Okay.
what don't you have in that belt?
So listen to what Stephen Moffat had to say
Patience
about
for
the
people
sonic
like you.
screwdriver and the sonic glasses, and then we'll continue it on.
Sometimes you have to be heretical. Sometimes you actually have to embrace the heresy. And I just thought, really, on a whim, why would the Doctor feel wedded to a screwdriver? Maybe he fancies varying it for a while. Maybe he'll pop some sonic glasses on instead. I thought also it maybe resurrected the original joke, which we've sort of slightly forgotten, that the screwdriver was just a screwdriver that made a noise, and it's gradually become this all-purpose everything that looks really cool. So, he's now got sonic sunglasses, which just are sunglasses. That's all they are. And they make a noise and things happen. It's just fun it's fun to be naughty. I know some people get incredibly irate about it. And I'm sure the screwdriver will show up again someday. But just to show that we can, why not?
So
He's not wrong. He's not
No,
wrong.
here's the thing.
see, I hated
Here's
it
the thing.
before I
Here's
heard
the
that,
thing.
and then I
Here's
was
the
like,
thing. Here's the thing from the start. That is actually the smartest thing I've ever heard that man say.
Yes.
Because
yes, and as somebody
when
who's
you-
been watching for so long, that is exactly
when
what that
you
is.
wed yourself to what you think everybody wants,
Mm-hmm.
you remove any reason to do what you need to do.
Right.
Sometimes you need to do things. You have major characters in great TV series that die because they have to.
Right.
When you get to that point, you go, well, this is somebody's favorite character, but this is Game of
the
Thrones.
only way. That
This
it
is
can
the
go
only
on.
way you got to move on. Is this? If you're a big fan of Lost, like I am, there's points you get to and go, I don't want Charlie to die. We're killing him because he has to.
Right.
That's the only way we can move on. The only way that we can move on is to kill. Well, Mr. Echo died because he was like, I don't want to live in Hawaii anymore. But again, you have somebody. That's the other reason. You have to do something because you've got to do it. When you weigh yourself to something like that, why does he have the sonic screwdriver? Because the fans love it. You're screwed. You're screwed.
Figuratively or with the sonic.
It doesn't matter. You're screwed because if you're sitting there, this is the old joke. You talk about a series like Glee, and everybody says we love the first season, we hate the second season, because people started to realize they wrote the second season by looking at Twitter.
Right.
What are all the fans saying? Oh, we gotta show more of the kid in the wheelchair because the fans love that guy. We got to show more of the gay guy because the fans love the kid. You're not writing your story anymore. You have to trust yourself as a creator to write the story that you think needs to be there.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do it right, fans will still love you and fans will keep going. When you do it wrong, then you're just like, it's just crap. If you're going to listen to everybody, you shouldn't be. You can't do that. And too many people do. Again, we'll go back to Marvel. You have Marvel telling Edgar Wright, your movie's got to be more Marvel, and
Right.
Edgar Wright telling him, it doesn't matter. Marvel will come to me. This will be a Marvel film because it's a Marvel character. It'll have Marvel films on it. Fans will come and they'll enjoy this movie as a Marvel movie, even if it isn't exactly the same as all the other Marvel movies. And it ends up being almost exactly the same as all the other Marvel movies.
Mm-hmm.
And there's really, I saw it again last weekend. It's a fun movie. There's nothing in that film that stands out. There's nothing in it that makes you go, that stands out.
Right.
I really enjoyed that. This is different than anything else that I've seen in a Marvel film before. Guardians of the Galaxy is because, well, it's in space. Okay. None of the characters are really that different.
No,
he's a
they're your
wise ass.
Avengers.
Guess what? So's Iron Man.
Yeah, it's your Avengers characters.
Yeah. Oh, he's a silent, strong, silent type. Well, so's Hulk. You know, it's you're getting into that. Well, if you have someone like me who really enjoys those films and still goes, I want something different.
Yeah.
I really wasn't. Cap 2 I loved because it's just an action film. And it's a different. If you watch Cap 1, you watch Cap 2, those are two totally different films.
Well,
The tone, again, is sort of the same. I understand it. You have to do that because I talked about Back to the Future being so crazy in tone that you don't really want to deviate from it. But you took it and said, we're going to do something a little different. We're not going to, throw ourselves off the edge of the cliff, but we're going to do something different enough.
Well,
that
Cap 1
really
was a
makes
comic
sense.
book movie. Cap 2 was a spy thriller.
It's just Cap 1's a military movie. I mean, really, when you look at it, it's a war film. I mean, it's got the rescuing POWs,
The war aspect of Cap 1 wasn't as much as I would have liked it to have been.
Well,
It wasn't like a saving type.
But you're
saving
debating
Private Ryan.
Yeah, but here's the back to the original point is you can't be beholden to fans.
right.
You have to trust that what you're doing is what you're doing. Really great comic books, Walking Dead as a comic book series and a TV series. Robert Kirkman's going to kill whoever the fuck he wants, and he doesn't
Whenever.
care what you
Yeah.
think. At some point, Kirkman's going to kill Daryl. He's going to do
And
it.
everybody will riot.
But that's the
you just
thing.
had the most nervous laugh, Rich. Like, no, he's not good.
no, I
He would have killed him. No.
At some point, because
Beth
remember,
was my favorite character, right? It was a horrible character.
cheese and crackers. At some point, because Daryl isn't
That was a joke.
Daryl isn't in the books. He can do whatever he wants with
That's
them.
true.
He's not beholden to anything, and obviously he's not beholden anyway. He's killed all these characters at different points, or he's had people, people survive, people die, whatever. At some point, he's going to sit there and look at it and say, "I have to kill him."
Yes.
The group that I have, he's such an integral part. You only have two pieces left in that group now. You have Rick and you have Daryl.
Carol.
You have two people left in that group now. You have Rick and you have Daryl. Because Carol's an outlier. Michonne's different too.
Coral.
One of those two is
Coral.
going to die,
Glenn.
and they're not going to kill Rick,
They're not going to kill Rick.
or are they?
It's
I mean,
it's
you
the
can
guy
do
from-
whatever you want.
I don't think they'll kill Rick in the show before they'd kill him in the book.
I really.
I don't know if that's.
I think he can do whatever he wants, and has proven. I'm going to do whatever I want because we're going to tell the story that we think we can tell, and you being mad about it, that's awesome. If you read Kieran Gillen's Journey into Mystery, the story, the kid Loki or teenage Loki one, there's a point in that story that turns that you're just like screaming at the book because it takes a turn you don't want. But that's what makes it awesome. Here, like, okay, we did something different. We gave him sunglasses. If you're going to look at that series and go, I'm not going to watch this anymore because he doesn't have a screwdriver anymore, it's stupid. I want the screwdriver back. Why?
Right.
You've been watching the goddamn screwdriver for 7 years.
Right. And for me, it's one of those things like I think the least of your concerns about that show should be sunglasses. There are far bigger issues with that show. But if sunglasses...
Yeah, there's not enough plastic on his face. So obviously it's
sunglasses
inferior.
is where you finally take umbrage. Like, I think you need to reevaluate yourself.
Well, tell you what.
And reevaluate, like, go back and rewatch those DVDs.
That's where you draw the line?
Yeah, exactly. It's like when I, like Avengers, when people were like, who's that purple guy at the end? It was stupid. Like, it's like, really? You know, aliens in New York and a giant green monster and space whales. But no, you get to Thanos and suddenly you've hit your threshold for, for the suspension of disbelief.
Have you ever told you the Star Trek 4 story?
No.
From when I was in a psychology and film class when I was in community college.
Yes, you've told us on
And I've told everybody else. I haven't told Sebastian, and I don't think I've told him. So their science fiction film was Star Trek 4, and our professor tells the story of a couple semesters before they finished this discussion of the film, and this student keeps saying, "Well, my problem is that's not San Francisco. That's the Monterey Bay Aquarium, which is the set for the aquarium set."
Yeah.
And she says, "Yeah, it's used as a set." No, you don't understand. They're saying they're in San Francisco. That's the Monterey Bay Aquarium. They're not that close. They can't. They land the ship in that park. They can't get to Monterey from there. And it's just a set. It's just a stand-in. He's like, but you don't understand. That's not San Francisco. And finally the professor says, you just watched a movie in which a spaceship slingshots around the sun to travel hundreds of years in the past to pick up a bunch of blue whales or two humpback whales and jump all the way back into the future. And your problem is that the damn set isn't in San Francisco? And it's Mikey's
But
story.
there's that one little thing.
Yeah, it's Mikey.
Yeah, but there's a difference between a set where they're clearly giving it another name, and they put up all the dressings.
But it's in the same.
hell,
It's in the same realm of
Yes,
what
it is the same thing. Yeah. It's the same thing for
Mike.
for that.
When Mike
yeah.
saw Charlie's Angels 2, we're watching it. There's a scene at the end in which a character like swings down into the car, and I see him off the corner of my eye just throw his hands up in the air like, "Oh, come on!" And I turn to him like, "That's where your breaking point is." Well, she could have never fallen into the car from that angle, and I'm like, they jump started a helicopter that's falling off the cliff, and your problem is that she can't land in the back seat from the way that she's swinging. Give me a break.
Yeah, no, it's exactly what that is. It's like a set difference, but it's the same idea. It's like
Chicago, Cleveland have all substituted for New York and different places.
Exactly.
If your checkout point
if your problem is that like, well, I know that street is in Chicago, but they said this was New York. It's like again, it's the same issue.
Statue of Liberty. Where are we?
Look, I'll be the first person to admit I was really upset with the sonic screwdriver / sonic shades.
Right.
I saw this article with Moffat and watched the video. And
I will
it
agree.
totally changed my opinion of it.
Right, but it's like I agree. Like for me, I look at it and it's like, well, Sonic Shades kind of stupid. It's not the idea that's stupid.
But that's
like,
the point of Doctor Who.
But they don't look like fancy
stupid.
sunglasses or
Yes,
anything.
I've been trying to tell you that.
No, and for me, it's like I don't. His logic is sound, and I totally agree. It's like, yeah, I don't mind having Sonic Shades for a season or two, whatever.
Right.
I don't. Like my problems with the show go far beyond the aesthetic choices of design in the show. It's like you just can't write, and that's been evident since after season 5. Where
so you're thinking the shades are substituting for the actual problem?
Yes, I think a lot of people are probably using that as an outlet. Like it's like really, if you're going to stop watching the show for shades, you've got bigger issues. You should stop watching the show because it's terribly written.
And let's get it straight. Your problem isn't with Peter Capaldi as the Doctor. It's with the writing for him as the Doctor.
Yeah, well,
Again, an
it's been
interesting choice.
It's been the writing of since after season 5, where it's like that first episode of season 6 is amazing and sets up a great mystery, and then by the end of it, it's like, well, why doesn't he just use like a robot or get a double or something? Oh, and then he does.
Where's K9?
It's like you couldn't come up with anything clever than that. I figured that out 10 minutes into the end of the episode. All right, never mind. Goodbye, sir.
Goodbye, sir.
Here's the thing, though. What I see is, fans of the show see the sonic screwdriver as an iconic.
It's like the TARDIS.
Yes. So it's like the same with any, like if I was, for example, if I watched The Walking Dead and Rick doesn't have his revolver, or Daryl doesn't have his crossbow, it just, huh?
Darryl Colonel doesn't have his hat.
But yeah, it's like, you see that, these characters with these iconic
No, it's Carl doesn't have that
tools.
just completely lost look behind his eyes. That vacant stare that's 20 yards out.
It just takes you out of what you enjoyed about this show.
And
and I think that's
true.
what it is.
Yeah,
And I'm gonna sort of cycle it back to Ghostbusters. But he's like, we all knew things were gonna get redesigned, and I kind of goes like, that's really the best you could come up with for a proton pack. It's been like 30 years, guys. Give me something like
You're talking about with the new one?
yeah. And it's like they put like the idea, and it's like, oh, it's gonna be super cool and super technological. It's like, well, that's clearly like the back of a toolbox on there, spray painted silver, whatever. But it's like my issues.
Movies are expensive.
They are expensive, but for me, it's like when it's like my issues
It
with
is
the
a
movie.
toolbox.
It's like Johnny
beyond.
5 when he removes the laser and puts the toolbox on his shoulder instead.
Yeah, but it's like if any one person's
Yes, that was a
issues
short-circuit
or like
reference.
it's like, oh well, the Ecto one doesn't look the same, or it's like well, you got bigger issues than just at least for me, my justification is like, well, I really don't like the movies you've directed. And I don't care for Melissa McCarthy, and I don't like the idea of you remaking the movie. But if your only gripes are like, well, this looks different, it's like, well, yeah, I think maybe you got a little bit. I think
You're focusing your energy in the wrong spot.
Look at the people that got all upset that the X-Wing all of a sudden the nacelles separated.
Split in half.
Instead of having 4 nacelles, you only had 2 that split in half.
Right, and it's one of those
I
things
don't know
where
what
like
you're talking
it's
about.
like I joked about that, but I also know like in the original McQuarrie designs, the engine does exactly
Well, that's what they want.
because it's also sci-fi. Like it's like you got bigger problems.
I got
You
a
can't,
bigger
like,
problem when they did the Knights of the Old Republic that takes place 4,000 years before, and the technology looks exactly the same.
Right.
Look, here's what I think is amazing. I think we did cover this, is that, for something like Star Wars, JJ has been paying homage to the things that came before it. He's paying, obviously, with the McQuarrie art. He went to the 501st with what the progression of the Stormtrooper armor would be, whether they would have the colors, the multicolored costume or uniforms or armor like they did in the Clone Wars and Episode 2 and 3, or would there be a progression from the actual Stormtrooper? And he went to the fans to find out their
But again,
quote
that can
unquote
be
expert
very
opinion.
dangerous because, as I've said, if that movie becomes a complete 2.5 hour pandering film, that's a terrible film.
Oh yeah.
If it's all a throwback film, then if you're banking on the nostalgia of everything, as Jurassic World does, I think that right amount of banking on its nostalgia.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you have a character that is you have a dinosaur in the T-Rex, which is the major part of the first film, and he only shows up in the last 5 minutes.
Right.
You know, instead of using it the entire time with all these different pieces, they save that and go, you're only going to get one thing. You're only going to see him at one point, and there's going to be 2 homage pieces in it when he smashes through the Spinosaur skeleton and when the Velociraptor's on his neck and not trying to bite him, but, you know, like, hey, we're friends now. But if you build your whole movie on that,
Yes.
you're in trouble.
And Jurassic World, I think, did a really nice job with the homages back to the original.
There's a couple different. I mean, the helicopter shot is the exact same shot. It's stuff like that you can look at it and go, okay, it doesn't take away from it. If you're going to build your film based on we want to hit the same points,
If you're building it beat for beat,
Yeah. and I don't think JJ will do that, but it's kind of scary when you start going, well, I went to the fans to look for this, and I went to the fans for this, and I don't want a fan-written movie.
Right.
You know, and I know JJ's a fan, but I don't want a movie that a fan puts together. Fan
But do you think
fiction
it's nice that he
sucks.
went to the fans to build like the R2 unit and
Yeah, that's different. Than, look,
Get
if he's
advice about the armor
he's,
and
if
things
he's
like that.
calling the fans and going, okay, what's the story?
Yeah.
What do you want the story to be? This is the problem with nerddom. This is the cynicism. Is everybody thinks that they can write the next Star Wars film?
Right.
No, you can't, because if you could, you'd be fucking writing it instead of sitting in your room going, I think Luke Skywalker should be a little bit fatter, and I think he should have made out with Leia again, and then this is the movie that I'm making, and Chewbacca's the hero. Here we go. And then they don't get that film. They go, I can't believe they didn't make Chewbacca the hero. This is the stupidest film I've ever seen in my life. I mean, too many people are connected to this sort of thing instead of just going and watching it and enjoying it. Or
But what we
letting
have seen
yourself
with
enjoy it.
JJ, with especially with Star Wars in particular, is even with the guys we interviewed, a couple years ago now from Dear J.J. Abrams, that did that whole campaign and that whole thing.
But even then, they'll never listen to the show, so it doesn't matter. In a way, when I'm watching them going, who are you to tell J.J. Abrams what the fuck to do with Star Wars?
That is true.
I mean, look at them and I go, you guys are a couple of podcasters. That's fantastic. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I'm going to tell J.J. fucking Abrams, this is the Star Wars you have to make, and if you don't, you can suck my dick. No. Go make the movie you want to make. And if I enjoy it,
He's a
fantastic.
Chris Color-Hilly.
And if he doesn't make a film I enjoy, okay. It's not the end of the world.
Right.
Again, I'm a person that can watch the prequels and go, all right, I understand what
find
you were
something.
doing.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that because
No, you don't. You hate the scene of the prequel.
No, I do hate the prequels, but you know what? I'm not presumptuous enough to.
You don't hate the
ever watch
prequels
them
because
again.
no, but your thing. You don't hate the prequels not because they're Star Wars. You hate the prequels. You think they're terrible films.
bad
That's a
movies.
different thing. If you're sitting there going, they're not Star Wars. No,
Right.
it isn't.
No,
George
exactly.
Lucas made them. It's
No,
Star Wars.
that's the thing, and it's also like I know enough to go like it's like look, it's like if I don't like something, I'm just not going to go watch it. You know, and if the first
Right, like if you know
if the first Ghostbusters trailer comes out, and I go,
that Michael
"Well,
Bay's
it's pretty good."
produced. If you know that Michael Bay's produced TMNT is terrible, you'll never watch it, will you?
right,
Yeah,
That
would
seems
be
reasonable.
stupid.
Why are you looking at me?
Right.
Because you watched it.
yeah, it's the thing. It's like if next
Why
year
are you looking at me?
if next year the Ghostbusters trailer comes out and I go, it's like, well, actually that looks pretty good. You know, maybe I'll go check it out. Fine, I'll go check it out because I'm also a big enough person to know if I'm wrong. And again, it's
So
all,
you would,
it's
as a
all
fan of
hypothetical.
Ghostbusters, you wouldn't check it out even if you weren't. I mean, even if you're not interested in what the film is.
No, if they can sell me in the trailer and they can sell me in their marketing material and something makes me go like, you know what, I will go check that out. Fine, but if I see the first trailer, and it's like, well, this looks dumb. I'm just not going to go see it.
Right.
And that it's as easy as that. And it's like I just like I don't know. It feels like common sense.
But everything has to be perfect. It has to be exactly the way I want it.
Right. I didn't.
Welcome to Nerd 101.
That's fandom.
That
thing.
totally is.
It's not even nerd. What I'm talking about, this age of cynicism, this
Yeah.
age of fandom that's gone absolutely insane.
You know,
I don't own Star Wars. I'm a
Right.
huge Star Wars fan. I don't own it. There's a lot of Star Wars stuff that's out there that I didn't enjoy. Clone Wars as a TV series, really up and down for me. And the parts that I'm angry at is that it completely invalidated one of my favorite stories.
Right.
But even then, I let go of that. I'm just like,
Right.
okay, it's just he made a series. I'm not particularly, I'm not going to rush
But
out.
not
to watch it.
everybody can say, okay, I can let go of some of my favorite stories and realize that they've either changed them,
They
they're not
have
part
to.
of canon.
I'm a huge Star Trek fan, and you know what? Yeah, I saw the first Star Trek movie and I didn't like it, and then I was like, well, maybe.
Well, nobody likes Star Trek.
So if Spectre
Boring
came
as
out-
hell.
Right. No, but even so, with
If 007 Spectre comes out and it completely rewrites everything with Octopussy or any of the other old movies.
Well, that's a terrible example because all the Daniel Craig movies are separate from the previous movies anyway.
I mean, they're not. Daniel Craig movies are the only ones that are
even
in
so,
continuity.
like with Star Trek Into Darkness, like it's like fool me twice, shame on me. I paid to go see it. I'm a sucker, and I didn't like it. Movie 3 directed by James Wan. It's like, all right, I know I'm not going to go see it because it's just like whatever. I don't care. But even so, Star Trek Into Darkness is a movie that I did not like at all. It's like didn't ruin Wrath of Khan for me, and that's like. And as much as like, and as much as I can go, it's like well, Ghostbusters. This looks kind of dumb and sounds dumb, and everything I've heard from all the production reports of people, it's like it kind of sounds dumb. It's like if it doesn't appeal to me, I'm just not going to go see it. That's not going to take away Ghostbusters from me.
Yeah, the raping your childhood thing. I mean, it's a funny joke on South Park, but it really is. These people are really believe that.
Right.
Yeah,
Somehow
I saw RoboCop.
Kingdom. Yeah,
it was terrible.
Somehow, Kingdom of the
But it
Crystal
doesn't take
Skull
away from the
invalidates the
original.
first 3 films.
No.
Right.
How does Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, which is 20 years later, invalidate 3 films before?
Well, how
It just
does the
doesn't.
No in the new Return of the
Because
Jedi?
because you have a film that changes the film.
There's a very big distinction there, and it's exactly on Chris's point. That actually changes the tone and the meaning from the film versus a sequel or a remake 20, 30 years later is not.
You're
the
changing
same
when you
thing.
change the film. Han Solo stepping on Jabba's tail. That's
Right.
an inserted scene.
That
changes the film for you.
Han
because
shooting first changes his character
Oh, God.
completely
Oh, yeah.
from what they ended up doing. That's not the same thing as going years later. It's like we can make a better RoboCop. We can make a better Ghostbusters. We
Return
can
of the
make a better
Jedi
Total
as a
Recall.
film, whether the people who don't like Return of the Jedi because there's Ewoks in it, doesn't ruin Empire Strikes
No,
Back
it
as a
doesn't.
film.
Correct.
But it also the Ewoks don't ruin
No,
Return of
that's
the
a
Jedi
that's a
either.
different
That's
story. But that's
Especially
what
when
I'm
you
saying.
think about the Ewoks actually eat people. So
Yeah,
Is
but they also, I mean, they, like if you read some of the old like RPGs and stuff, people used to go to the forest moon of Endor to go and make Ewok jerky
Yeah.
to kill the Ewoks for food and sell them on market. So, but of course they're never going to talk about that in any of the movies. But again, that doesn't ruin.
That's the plot of episode 7.
Oh shit, that's going to be
No, the
awesome.
plot of
That's
episode
the
7 is
Ewok
that
jerky.
Jar Jar is.
that's the Ewok
Because
anthology.
I've been
movie.
getting ready for the RPG, and they actually talk about it. It's like, oh, Ewok jerky is a very big thing in the Star Wars universe. It's like
Yum, yum.
awesome.
So yum yum becomes yum yum.
That's where
It's got a little
Yum, yum,
wicket
yums.
on. It's got a cartoon wicket on the baggie for the jerky, and it's like yum.
Okay,
yum.
so keeping with the theme of continuing on stuff, rebooting, remaking, a part 3 of something. Frank Miller released the cover image for The Dark Knight 3, The Master Race.
Well, you have a perfect example. Dark Knight, one of my favorite Batman stories of all time. Dark Knight Strikes, or whatever the sequel
Dark Knight
is,
Returns?
is horrible. Oh, it's not Returns. It's like Dark Knight Strikes, isn't it?
Dark Knight Strikes Again. But,
Strikes
that's
Again.
like, but that was like again, like he
Yeah.
did that what in like 99, 2000.
Yeah, he did it 15
Right.
years after first.
So
Yeah.
we're talking
And again,
15 years
doesn't-
apart for each
it
one of
doesn't
them. almost.
invalidate. I don't read that second one and go, oh, well, now the first one doesn't make any
Right.
sense.
I just don't read the second one again.
Yeah.
And it seems
There's a curiosity point of me that wants to read that again because I haven't read it since it first came out. I just remember hating it.
awful. But
So when you want to sit down and just read something
and I've seen
awful.
a lot of weird stuff about the cover. Like some people are just happy because it's Frank Miller. Like, dude has cancer. He doesn't have long to live. If you look at pictures, that man is dying.
Yeah.
And it's coming fast.
He hasn't made some great decisions lately either.
And for me, like seeing all the hate, like, oh, this is an awful image. There's so many great artists out there, and you let this out, and it's like, have you seen pictures of this guy? He's gonna die, and he's probably gonna die in a month.
Well, his art style's changed
And it has
so
changed.
severely. After,
I go like,
after
I can't
300.
draw, and I go, it's like, dude did that on cancer? Jesus, that's really good.
So, I mean, besides the fact that Frank Miller's doing the art, or
He's doing the writing. I don't think he's the artist on the book.
I think he's the. I thought he was co-writer on the book.
There's several different artists that are
Yeah, there's
Right.
different
But
artists.
he's
doing
doing
interior
the main
art.
first cover.
Right.
Well, he's done a bunch of covers in the last year. So.
Yeah, and he's done art, but I mean, if you look at a picture of him, yeesh.
Yeah.
Like, it's bad. It's bad, and there's not a lot of people talking about that. This is probably his swan song.
Yeah. We're getting a weird noise. But,
That's probably for me.
but do you
wait,
think
what-
we need a book?
So I looked up Dark Knight Master Race in the news. First look, Frank Miller's Dark Knight 2 minicomic. Second, DC lets Frank Miller draw Superman's penis for Dark Knight 3.
Oh God.
So let's click on that story.
I mean, this is
do you think
this
it's-
is Frank Miller last year.
Yeah.
Can I see? Oh my God.
Yeah, he's.
Do you?
He went from, and people can't see this, so this is very confusing. But he went from, if you look at pictures of him from, even just a couple of years ago, like
Well, look when
Sin City.
Well, I was gonna say when the Dame to Die For came out.
Right, like even if you look from then to now, like he's heavy into chemo. Like it's bad.
Okay, aside from the cover art that we've seen, do you feel like we want to have a Dark Knight 3?
Do you need it? No. Should there be one? Probably not.
Should it have been 15 years ago?
Azarella's the co-writer. That's what it was.
Yeah.
I knew there was a
But I
co-writer.
also go. But I mean, it's also something that like I'll check out because like for the most part, I think Frank Miller's track record's pretty all right. It's
But see, as you say, his swan song, that makes me want to read it more. This could be his final piece, and that for itself
Right, I'll check
would
it
make
out.
it
Yeah.
a treasure.
I'm happy with his final piece being about 20 years ago. Well, I mean, it's like an aging sports star when you're sitting there like, well, you don't want the the baseball player that you remember as a kid being able to do everything, who could barely round first base without falling over.
Yeah.
You know, the
and
guy who
that
can't
sort
make
of speaks
shots,
to
stuff like
Indiana
that.
Jones. For it's like no one really
Yeah.
wants to watch an Indiana Jones movie where he's an old geezer running around,
And not
nobody wants to see
not
Husky.
really address it. They had an
Right.
interesting film there.
Right,
They could have
exactly.
made a very interesting film there if the tone had gone back to Raiders and Temple of Doom and really been this in a way, even what Mutt is like, you're not even an archaeologist, you're a grave robber.
Yeah.
I thought if they had kind of done that, where they made a much more interesting film of what is he really doing and starting to address some of those issues and his age and the fact that he's running out of time and what happens in that, he lived through World War II, he lives through the Korean War and everything that's going. That could have been a really interesting film. Instead, they're like, well, we're going to take Indiana Jones 3, which is so different in tone from the first two. We're going to make a campy film, and then we're going to ratchet that up like crazy into just Camp Central. Like, there's going to be tents on
We're
set
going to
because
put
it's
him-
just camp.
We're
Indiana
going to
Jones and
put
the
him
Invasion of the
in a
Saucermen is the original
refrigerator.
title.
Yeah, and that would have been something I think
would
was
have
a
been-
lot more fascinating.
Yes.
And if they had addressed it, if it was, again, everything, you can say that about anything, well, if it was written better. But here, really, I think the themes of it that people were looking at, when you're saying, oh, you can't do Indiana Jones 4, he's too old. That's your movie.
Yes.
And it's not
Yeah.
just him falling into a thing, damn, I thought I could make that before. It's not that. It's him saying, I can't do this anymore.
Yes.
And looking back, if that was a legacy film, because look, in the film, his father is dead. The character that played Marcus Brody, the actor who played Marcus Brody is dead. You have a lot of things that are gone.
Yes.
Marion coming back again would have been really interesting. This is his relationship. He had a very strong relationship with Marion's father. He obviously had a relationship with Marion.
But Marion's character seems so different in
That's the
that film.
problem.
Well, because they grabbed her out of a toll booth in the middle of nowhere to
Yeah.
come back and act. in
They're
this
like,
movie.
hey, stop flipping those fries. Let's go. But again, if you have something,
Flips fries. I just want to know that.
yeah, you flip it.
No, you flip a burger.
No, you're going to the wrong places.
What
You
the
just
hell are
have
you
them
guys
sit.
doing?
I think you're going to the wrong place.
No, the best place flips their
Segue.
fries because it's like oil falling all over the place. Anyway, there's a really interesting story there. Marion's looking at him and going, hey, we were like this, and then I ended up in the fucking middle of nowhere when my father died because you abandoned me. You're gone.
Right.
There's a really interesting story, a really fantastic, awesome story, and instead you got monkeys and ants and Shia LaBeouf.
Cannibal Shadow.
And really,
you just-
really bad, like psychic, like quasi-psychic commie experiments, and
Even the
and it's like the Crystal Skull, and there's
And
such
aliens.
such a
And prairie
tenuous
dogs.
link to even like at least the other films tried to do a little bit with the mythology. It's like, oh, it's the Crystal Skull. It's like it's not even trying to make this about about,
Well, so much of that,
Yeah.
if you read did you ever read the book that came up with
Yeah.
the making of the, when you get to that one, it really is, I'll be honest, reading George Lucas's part of it, he was the one that wanted to do that film.
Right.
He's like, I want to do this, and they're saying, well, we don't want to do another,
this.
we don't want to do another film, we don't want to do aliens. Why can't we just do we do a religious artifact?
right, and
again?"
I don't
he's
even
like,
mind that
no.
it's aliens too.
Yeah.
That's another one of those situations like. Aliens is your it's like that
It's
movie
the
has
perfect
far
time
bigger
for it.
problems
Yeah.
than aliens in this movie.
Yeah, I have no problem. I remember seeing when I first saw Indiana Jones: The Last Crusade when I was a kid, or older kid or whatever, and they get to the end and I'm like, that knight survived for like 900 years. That's stupid. And then realized I watched 2 films in which God kills a bunch of Nazis and melts someone's face off, and then a priest takes a heart out of a dude and lets him live while he's set on fire. Okay, you know what? That's fine. I'm kind of cool with it. It's just people that are like, well, Temple of Doom is obviously it's so dark compared to the first one. The first one has his face melting off.
You know what,
and
I
you
thought
watch it for like 45 minutes.
The first thing I thought with the knight when he's lived that long was, where'd he go to the bathroom?
Doesn't have to. He's
He's drinking
He's
water.
Jesus. He's like,
And all the grails on the wall, duh.
He's drinking Jesus juice. He doesn't have to.
It's also the idea that like even so, like when you look at sort of the way that Indiana Jones treats sort of mythology, it's like well, it's probably not God or a god, but like a mystical ideal or like a pantheon of gods. 'Cause, I mean, Kali gives Molaram the power to rip out people's hearts, and using the Shankara stones.
no, he just uses that all the time.
So
can use life. But yeah,
But again, you have a.
Aliens are your issue,
where the
guys?
hell did we start with this?
well,
don't know what it
listen
was.
real quick before we go back to the subject because I know what it was, and when we can.
Oh yeah, it was
Wait.
it was the Superman's penis.
Since we're talking Indiana Jones, because we've discussed this before, Chris and I think we've discussed it on the show. But Sebastian, can you count how many of the artifacts Indiana Jones actually leaves with that he actually recovers?
none.
There's
None.
what do we say? 2?
Yeah, no, he gets the Cross of Coronado.
But then
Finally.
he loses it.
No, but he
And then
brings.
he
No,
gets
he,
it back.
but he
brings
does
it
end
back.
up with
He does
it.
get it back.
He
yeah,
bring
at the
what
end.
does he actually bring to the museum? He brings the Cross of Coronado, and I think that's it.
Well, he does. No, because he doesn't recover the ark.
He loses the idol. He loses the ark.
Mm-hmm.
He loses the Sankara stones through his own volition. That's the
He gives it
that's
up.
the best part. Is he
Yes.
gives them up.
He loses
he
the
loses
diamond.
the diamond.
He loses the headstone of Ra.
Well, he's not. That's not what he's searching for.
Well, he doesn't lose the diamond because he grabs it from Willie. Like,
Does he take it from
I
her?
think she does.
I
'cause-
thought
'cause she
I thought
actually-
it continues to get lost.
Yeah.
Does it continue to get lost?
It does because I think they ended up leaving with it, and he ends up the Germans come after him, and when they get onto the plane, so he doesn't.
They're Chinese.
Or the Chinese, yes.
They don't all look alike. Chinese and Germans.
So yeah, that's but yeah, he's like the worst archaeologist ever because he never recovers any of it.
Well, he's
Well,
a teacher.
it's the old story of if you look at Raiders, he doesn't affect the outcome.
Right.
Right.
He does. He does
Well,
absolutely
he
nothing.
doesn't. It's also like that's like now we're going on a tangent. It's also one of those things.
Now?
Like, an even larger tangent because
Welcome to Nerdables.
like because that dumb joke in Big Bang Theory. It's like no, he doesn't affect the outcomes. It's not his job. He has one job, and that's to retrieve the Ark before Hitler gets it, and he does exactly his job because he brings it back, and then the government takes it.
Well, okay. The reason that joke exists is there was someone who did this analysis of it. It basically says this: what the Nazis do, they would have done regardless whether
Yes.
Indy was involved or not, because they hired Belloc. Belloc was always going to open the Ark before he
and test
delivered
it.
it to Hitler. So when Belloc opens the Ark, they're all going to die anyway.
Right.
In a way, it falls apart when you say he is able to recover the Ark at the end and give it to the United States government. It would have sat on that island, and only the Nazis would have known where it was. So yes,
And then they
more
would
than
have-
likely the Nazis would have sent a recovery mission,
Grabbed
and
it,
someone was like,
and Indiana
"Okay,
Jones would
let's
have
put the
to-
top back on. Let's go." I don't
Right.
know why they're Mexican all of a sudden.
I
Let's put that top back on. Hold on,
I
let's
thought
just
they were
get it.
Indian for a second.
And then
put that
Indiana
back
Jones
on.
would have to chase the Ark down again.
And that would have been the
to go get
sequel.
it. And that would have been the sequel. But it's also that idea. It's like that's a terrible joke. Did you not watch the movie? He was hired by the government to go get it. And he does do exactly that. He did his job as far as I'm concerned.
He loses the Grail. He loses his father's
No,
notebook.
he gives up the Grail. Because he's gonna grab it, and he tells the same thing to Allison Duty. It's like, no, just leave it. It's okay.
Let it go.
Let it go. And then his dad tells him to let it go. He's like, all right, you're right. I'll let it go.
What you take away from that, what I take away from that is that his thing was you had to find it.
Yeah.
Taking it back doesn't matter anymore. It's like
Right.
I found it. I know
found-
where it
I
is.
found the Grail.
and
But
it
that's
became-
with any of those then.
But that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's the Sankara Stone, the same thing. Temple of Doom is one of the most underrated films in history because as you really start to unpack it, you realize it's one of the best prequels because he's a fucking jerk.
Yeah.
And then this is, for all intents and purposes of what we know, this is the first unselfish thing he ever does.
Right.
Because he has the stones in his hand, and he's going to leave. All he has to do is pick up that kid. Well, I guess the first unselfish thing would be take the kid off the streets. Pick up the kid, pick up Willie, and get out of that palace. He turns around and he sees slaves, child slaves, and says, I'm not leaving. Mm-hmm. And the character that you're presented for the first third of that film, he should have turned around and walked away. He's Han Solo. I'm going to shoot you. I'm going to take the money from this kid and this old man, and I'm done.
Right.
Right. Yeah, all right, I'll come back and save this kid.
You know, Indy always shot first.
Well, and Indy's also a good guy in the sense that, like in some of the expanded stuff, essentially he doesn't have a son save for Short Round, who is a character.
Yeah, when they did the books after
he's essentially
Temple
adopted.
of Doom, yeah, he saved Short Round. But it's to be his assistant or whatever. But it's obvious. But here we have this the end of the film when the kid's running through and you see them put the stone back. That's the only stone he has left.
Mm-hmm. Right.
He doesn't take it. He gives it back to the village.
Right.
And he just walks away. It's the same thing here. He goes through this whole adventure and realizes at the end of it, the whole adventure of it was, I have my dad back. I've lost my father for all of these years. I walked out of this house. I didn't understand what he was doing. Now I understand what he's doing. I just fought an army of Nazis, all this crap, to find this thing, and I found it. And now I don't care. I can let it go. Because I'm going to die.
The other thing was that his father had obsessed with it for so many years of his life.
And that's both of them
coming.
He
let it go.
Because it's the same thing. I got my son back. Mm-hmm. The whole film is about the one of the most poignant scenes is when they get to the crossroads and he slaps him for blasphemy because he's just like, yeah, your mom never understood it either.
Right.
You know, like your mom understood more than you thought. You know that it was just it's more about that journey and
so
about
what you're saying is Last Crusade has a lot more substance than most people would allow.
It does, but it also fails itself because all of the action, so much of the action is campy.
Okay, so let's wrap this up. But back to the Dark Knight 3, the Master Race,
which just to do due diligence, written by Brian Azzarello and Frank Miller. The art is Klaus Johnson and Andy Kubert.
Yes,
which means Andy Kubert's probably doing most of it. Klaus Johnson's doing the inking.
Is there a story in that Dark Knight universe that you want or need, or there should be?
There's a different want. Sure, there's a lot of stories that could be told, about how they got that way. But do I need one? No. But then again, I don't need a lot. I didn't need before Watchmen. I don't.
DC did.
Yeah. I don't. It's like
we need some cash.
I'm also.
But
happy
do you think
enough,
it is DC trying to cash in?
But
no, I'm sure Frank wants to do this,
Yeah,
and DC's like, look, it's Frank Miller's like, I want to do Dark Knight 3. Okay, we're going to do 175 covers. Can I do one where I draw Superman's penis? Yes, go for it. He draws Superman's penis,
and that's sort of the crux of the issue. Is like, do you need it? No, it's like after Enterprise got canceled, it's like I didn't need more Star Trek. But they gave it to me anyways, and I was.
It's a need. When you're talking about entertainment, it's never need.
It's never need. It's exactly.
And that's again, we're going to go back to fandom. Fandom believes they need stuff.
Yes,
they don't need stuff.
Right.
They don't need stuff. But I need to know how Bruce gets from the prison in Tanzania to Gotham so quickly. He's fucking Batman. The end. You don't need to know that. It happens. Go for it. We're now like that's what nitpicking is. I need to know this. I need to know this. I need to know this. It's the fans in the theater. Lights go down. And you see the character. Who is that? Who's that character? Tell me who that is. We went to see Sicario. Of course, Sicario.
Like, oh my god!
And the first review that I read after I saw the film, Peter Travers' review in Rolling Stone, is if you go see the film, please just hold on for the first 20 minutes because you're not going to know who anybody is. Everybody's introduced as a mystery character, and then as you go through the film, you start to realize who all these guys are and how they're connected and what they're doing. The modern fan watches the first 20 minutes and go, who's Josh Brolin? No, what is he?
Well, that's what, if you look at most films,
I need everything splayed out immediately.
Most films from the 70s and 80s, when you watch them, they would never be made today because they would have lost the fans or the audience's attention within the first 5-10 minutes of the movie.
But that's also goes with the audiences evolve with movies, and they get used to something. They get used to a certain way a story is told, and that every movie decade has its storytelling style in particular. Like when the rise of CGI in the 90s happened, the 2000s is a dead zone for films because it's all just pure it's just pure gluttony of using the technology because like we have it, we can do it. It doesn't matter. It's like people will just sit and eat their sugar, in the movie theater.
Your scientists were cloning you. You were so busy saying that you could. You would have never thought about whether you should.
And the 2000s sort of had,
there.
the 2000 and the current, the knots still have that big issue because people are still getting used to the technology, but slowly they're starting to realize.
Well, when you see the rise of superhero film, also is because so many superheroes are archetypes. They're very
Right.
easy. It's
They're
very
easy.
easy to understand them very quickly.
But to see this,
You know,
wraps up everything.
You know everything about Peter Quill's character in the first 5 minutes of Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yes.
Because you see him get abducted and then you see him dancing. Done. No, I'm dead serious though.
No, but that's it.
That's what it is.
That's true.
When you go from there on, he doesn't really change that much.
Right.
And you don't really find out anything more about him. You're just like, okay, he just runs around the galaxy trying to save stuff and he thinks the green chick is hot.
Right.
Right, it's not like the 70s where you can have really dark movies that don't end well. Like, 70s movies do not have a reputation for having happy endings. I mean, Westworld and Logan's Run, those movies alone, even like things like Omega Man with Charlton Heston.
Like a Blade Runner and all that.
Runner.
Yeah.
Blade Runner, like, these movies do not have happy endings.
Even Conan was a...
Right, but now and it's even
Yes, Conan.
Interestingly
Yes, I
enough, like
I cried
you look
for
at a
him.
movie like the original King Kong, which has a lot of substance that was left out with Dina De Laurentiis and Peter Jackson. Even then, lamenting the idea that movie audiences always need the love interest. Like, well, my movies don't. It's like, but they're making me put one in anyways, and it's fascinating to see.
The love interest has no chance because he is not going to be able to do anything with her. It's going to get really messy.
She is going to get wrecked.
But it's
Kong love you.
and that's 1933, and they're a movie that's talking about they're forcing a love interest in this movie that I'm making in this jungle.
Well, it's just like everything has to be
But
humans.
it's
You
just
can't
like,
make a Transformer film without humans in it.
Right,
But see, it's like, okay, everything... This all ties together with everything we've been
Jazz
covering
needs to
tonight.
speak in slang because it'll be more relatable
No.
for the inner city audiences.
It worked in the cartoon.
Yeah, it
because
worked in the cartoon because you can be racist in the 80s and you're okay.
But, okay, going back with
Could
everything
you
we've talked
imagine them
about
doing
tonight.
Short Round now?
Oh, God.
If you release that movie now, no, Dr. Jones, no, what the f*** is that? Why is he not speaking English? I don't
Why hasn't
understand.
he
it.
adopted that kid yet?
He did. He clearly did. He becomes an archaeologist in the expanded universe.
But with everything we've covered tonight, I guess the through line to it is, just because we can doesn't mean we necessarily should. We don't need 4 more Transformers
We don't need to
movies.
do this podcast.
Yes, we do. The few listeners we have need to have this.
The guy at work that listens to it to tell you how much it sucks.
Hey, he wants to come on the show because he doesn't really know a lot about nerdisms, if you will.
That'll be fantastic.
And he wants to learn.
Great.
No, I would rather not have it be about learning. I'd rather it's like the outsider looking in. Like, please offer your insights.
That would be interesting, wouldn't it?
And then have Sebastian Darrow.
So on that note,
when he sits down and goes, yeah, I'm really looking forward to the female Ghostbusters movie. Here's why you're wrong. There's not enough goatees in that film.
Speaking of which,
if the female Ghostbusters had goatees, would you watch it?
No.
No.
I think we already covered that question.
But I that's also something. It's like it's Paul Feig. I'm sure at some point there's gonna be a joke on the equivalent of something about beards, and it'll just be like,
Interesting.
eye roll.
Wait,
So-
before we end,
Before we end,
how we doing, Shauna?
No, I'm okay.
Okay. We just
really,
wanna make sure.
you didn't get a lot in today.
I'm sorry. I am actually really exhausted.
Well, we thank you for coming,
See, Shauna doesn't need to do this podcast. I need to sleep.
but she does it.
Cause
Though.
I love you guys.
Aww.
Aw. I
I'd
think
say
we
she's talking to listeners, but there's no listeners. So.
she loves the listeners if there are listeners.
The Guam guy. I like the Guam guy.
The Guam guy.
We do have a kid in Cincinnati that listens to us and then goes back and re-listens to them.
Oh my god. Oh, thanks.
Let's also
Cincinnati
point
kid.
out that it's a family member.
I was going to leave that out. So the pathetic aw doesn't take away from the fact that he's
No,
still.
it's nice.
That's a thank you.
But it's
whoever you are.
different.
His name's Brandon.
It's different.
We'll give him a
Brandon.
shout out.
That's a different kind of love. That's family love versus like some just nobody out there that's like I really actually
Somebody
like
literally
these
in
guys,
Guam.
and I respect their opinions. Like
See,
please don't respect my opinion.
If people would leave us comments
I
on.
got nerd rage. I don't like. I'm the
God,
last
do
person.
you ever? My
If
I'm the
people
last
left us
person that
comments on
anybody should be
iTunes
listening
or
to.
Facebook or one of them, then we'd be able to give them shout outs too. If there are people.
Shutouts?
Shut-ups. Give us
Shout out to
shut-ups.
shut-ups.
Apparently they're hockey goalies.
So yeah, make sure you check us out on Facebook /Nerdables or / I always do that.
Just
One or
say
the other.
slash. Every week I
Facebook.
fucking tell you, just say slash.
Facebook.com/Nerdables. We're also at Twitter.
We're at Twitter. Love of God. Speaking of not needing to do something,
We're on Twitter at Nerdables Show. And
let Java do it. But Jay knows it better.
you guys are going to
Nerdables.
add stuff to the website soon. Yes. Try to.
Let's see. I've got a major sale next week, which is 70 hours.
So you can try to. A paragraph.
Sure. I'll try to.
We'll try to. All right. So make sure you check us out next week when we do episode 106.
Math.
Math.